Stick with me, you're about to watch my wild story. I am Jack. March, 1951. I was running my lathe at the loose steel mill, when my foreman panicked, waving a blueprint. He asked if I could machine this part. I peeked at the drawing, keeping my machine running. I told him I would finish my current task if it could wait. Otherwise, I would jump right in. He claimed it came directly from the factory director. I killed the power and leaned in for a closer look. An American Ford car bearing. Honestly, with our outdated machines, this was no joke. It required extremely careful, slow grinding. I warned him I needed at least 3 days. He nodded, promising to pass my regular tasks to another guy. Once he left, my coworkers completely swarmed me. Classic behavior, a mix of intense curiosity and pure jealousy. Someone loudly announced that a mid-level machinist like me made 540,000 yuan monthly. Another pointed out my insane 6-month jump from apprentice to junior, then mid-level in just 1 year. I simply smiled and gave everyone a very polite, cheerful response. Reputation is huge right now. I avoided looking arrogant. Suddenly, booming voice totally shattered the noise. My incredible master, William. A huge, intimidating guy. The second he opened his mouth, everyone immediately scrambled right back to their stations. William marched over, asking if I could really handle this job. I confidently assured him I could replicate that American part. He nodded, swearing he would protect me if things went wrong, again risking his own reputation. Honestly, that warmed my heart. Ever since I was reborn into this era, I had never experienced that level of genuine care. Back when I joined, I actually wanted to learn under this guy named Henry from my neighborhood, but he totally rejected me. So I picked William. People dodged him because he was harsh and yelled easily, but he genuinely taught me absolutely everything, holding nothing back. That is the true reason I leveled up so fast. Plus, my massive secret. Watch closely now. Before arriving in this world, I was a software engineer. Waking up here changed absolutely everything. Maybe souls merged, or hidden memories unlocked, but my learning speed skyrocketed to insane levels. I literally had to force myself to slow down. If I went all out, I could have mastered William's incredible skills in just 6 months. I secretly wanted to work with computers, but in 1951, completely impossible. The country's first computer wouldn't drop until 1958, built entirely from ancient vacuum tubes. Since my true power was software, not hardware, my hands were unfortunately completely tied on this. An apprentice rushed over with the raw piece. I thanked him cheerfully, looked it into the lathe, and fiercely attacked that bearing. Time completely vanished while I worked. I totally missed the lunch hour until the loud bell rang out. Jack, time to eat. My master William yelled out, carrying both our lunchboxes. I killed the machine's power and happily strolled with him toward the cafeteria. The loose steel mill was actually built back in 1935 by Director Lewis's father. The place survived a crazy history. Warlords, then 8 years of harsh occupation. Lewis reclaimed it back in 1946 and rapidly expanded it. You and I know 1951 was booming. 2,000 workers packed this cafeteria. We waited 30 minutes just to reach the window. The food server was Harry, my neighbor from back at the courtyard. He rocked a stiff, blank face and massive eye bags. But do not be fooled. He was a brilliant chef, mastering traditional cuisine. Lewis actually hired him personally. Why so late today? Harry asked, as I eagerly handed my empty box. He stuffed it full of cabbage, pork, and glass noodles. I paid, snatched 3 sweet corn buns, and quickly sat with William. William glared at my huge portion. Harry definitely favors you. I tried sharing my epic meal, but he firmly pushed my hand back. Keep it, you have family to feed. You really need a wife. I shook my head, laughing. I am not even 18, master. I am raising 2 younger brothers and a little sister. What girl wants that chaos? William just gave a very heavy sigh. He understood my crazy life. My pay looked amazing on paper, but divided 4 ways with endless school fees, it vanished incredibly fast. Having 0 parents at home made me a terrible matchmaking choice. Hang in there, he encouraged me warmly. Crush that senior exam in 3 years and everything changes. After that intense lunch, I headed right back to work. Those imported lathes were ancient and battered, so despite my epic skills, I still had to be ridiculously careful. Quitting time hit, and I had only finished 1/3 of that bearing. 3 days felt dangerously tight. Strolling out of the factory, I noticed Harry walking ahead, hauling 2 packed lunchboxes. I totally shouted his name. He turned, flashing a warm smile, and instantly offered 1 box for my siblings. I proudly held up my own. I had safely hidden half my lunch for them already. He respected that immediately. We strolled together toward Courtyard 95 on South Copper Gong Lane. It was originally a Grand King Dynasty noble estate with 4 huge courtyards. Sadly, enemies completely wrecked parts of it during occupation. The army rebuilt it into 3 courtyards. The glory faded, but trust me, our journey here is just getting started. Let's dive into this wild story. My family lived in 3 rear rooms plus a side room. That was the compound's second largest space, just behind Harry's place. Greedy folks always tried stealing our rooms, but these were legally our private property. My dad George bought them before he passed away. Plus, nobody pushes me around. He taught me our epic family Shinji boxing style. Honestly, if I didn't have younger siblings to protect from the fallout, I would have caused serious chaos for anyone crossing us. Some angry neighbors absolutely hated me for standing firm, but I ignored them. The only reason I stayed was simple. If we ever moved out, those greedy vultures would snatch our rooms in a heartbeat. Safe at home, I locked up, slipped into my bedroom, shoved the heavy cabinet aside, and yanked a hidden box from the wall. Sitting down, I popped it open and counted. Exactly 23 million yuan in first edition bills. Hidden right beneath all that cash, 5 massive gold bars and 10 smaller ones. At current market prices, I was secretly a literal millionaire. Basically the equivalent of what history calls a legendary 10,000 yuan household. But the crazy wealth meant nothing. The real treasure at the bottom? 2 property deeds. One covered our 3 rooms right here. The second deed? An entire private 2-courtyard compound. Basically an absolutely massive standalone house. I stared endlessly at those unbelievable papers. It was a complete mystery how my parents ever secured such insane real estate. My dad, George, was a simple factory machinist, and my grandparents were just ordinary farmers. We had 0 wealthy relatives, yet before passing away, my dad handed me this heavy box, strictly ordering me not to peek until adulthood. Now pay attention here. I totally broke that promise, and uncovered just how ridiculously deep our family's secret wealth went. My mom didn't survive a rough complication giving birth to my sister. Dad passed soon after, leaving only this mysterious box and us 4 orphans behind. I sighed hard. Holding this much wealth right now felt super dangerous. I quietly grabbed 1 million yuan, sealed the box tight, shoved it back inside the wall, and reset the cabinet. Then I hit our little side room, kitchen. I carefully washed up a cabbage, peeled 3 potatoes, and started chopping fast. Nothing fancy, just sour cabbage and some spicy shredded potatoes. That was the maximum I dared make. I desperately wanted to spoil my siblings with great food. But honestly, these nosy courtyard neighbors could smell anything instantly. A year after Dad passed away, I finally bought 2 pounds of fresh pork for an epic stew. The literal second I opened our door, a massive crowd of starving local kids was waiting right there. I just couldn't reject them. I shared it all, leaving my own siblings with practically nothing. Never cooked meat at home after that disaster. If we wanted a treat, I took them out secretly. We kept up an absolutely convincing broke act. The neighbors completely bought it. We are home now. My second brother, Daniel, yelled cheerfully from the yard. Go wash your filthy hands. Food is almost done. By the time all 3 returned, scrubbed clean, dinner was totally ready on the table. Seeing their skinny little faces always broke my heart. I wanted to escape and spoil them, but I knew the harsh era changes that were coming fast. I know what you're thinking. Why not just leave? Because leaving meant losing those precious properties instantly. Let us eat up. I served 3 huge bowls. Daniel was 12, Tommy was 10, and 8-year-old Lily actually shared classes right alongside Harry's young daughter. Your cooking is getting insanely good, Tommy mumbled, happily stuffing his face. Utterly true. Ever since my 2 souls permanently merged, my learning speed skyrocketed. Mechanics, cooking, absolutely mastering everything. Identical ingredients, but somehow my meals turned into magic. Harry even tasted it once, swearing I was head chef tier. He practically begged me to quit the steel mill and join him. Hard pass. I cooked purely to make their hard lives brighter. Giving them my veggies, I popped my factory lunchbox. 3 eager pairs of eyes snapped to it. Meat. Keep it quiet, just eat. They grabbed that pork, chewing with eyes closed in absolute bliss. Daniel suddenly looked super conflicted. The meat is amazing, but your vegetables are somehow even better. Tommy enthusiastically agreed, smiling softly. I passed them the remaining meat, and happily finished the humble leftover cabbage myself. Honestly, a full stomach was perfectly fine for me. Flavor was an unnecessary luxury. Afterwards, the kids insisted on doing dishes. I waved them off. Go do homework. Those effies it up. So, what do you and I make of this? I earned decent cash, but feeding 3 kids? Nobody here envied my secret millionaire life. On paper, with 3 growing kids to feed and teach, the money barely stretched. And that was exactly how I wanted things to look. After school fees, living expenses, and the $50,000 I sent to my grandparents every month, it seemed I had nothing left. Stick with me here, because that fake story is where this gets really interesting. After washing the dishes, I checked the kids' homework, helped them out with the few tough problems, then fired up the stove and heated some water so they could wash up before going to sleep. Once they fell asleep, I washed up, tossed the water, and hopped into my own bed. We had 3 rooms for 4 people, the brothers in one, Lily in hers, me in mine. For our courtyard standards, we honestly had it better than almost everybody else, space-wise. But with 0 adults at home, I just kept a low profile. Lying there, I replayed my whole day, making absolutely sure I had not slipped up anywhere, and drifted off. The next morning hit me like a solid wall of ice. I pushed myself out of bed, tossed on my patched cotton coat under my factory uniform, and got the fire going. Once our room finally warmed up, I heated water and cooked breakfast. Corn porridge, leftover steamed buns, and homemade pickled veggies. Simple, but totally decent for these times. Before waking them, I stepped into the yard and ran through my set of Shinji boxing forms to loosen up. Then I woke the kids. 3 sleepy faces appeared, mumbling morning in their cute, groggy little voices. They washed up, ate breakfast, and I handed each one 1,000 yuan for lunch. Make sure you eat plenty, and tell me if you need more. I watched them happily walk away with their school bags until they disappeared from sight. I let out a sigh, cleaned up the house, locked my door, and headed to the factory. The mill was close. Plenty of courtyard families worked there. The Lees and Wangs from the front, the Zhao family, plus Henry and Harry's family in the middle, and then the Su family, the Lias, and us from the back. I just kept my distance from everyone else. Harry's family was the only one I really cared about. I just knew something terrible was coming for them eventually. Now pay attention, because I knew the future from my past life. Harry would chase a widow, get himself kicked out, and things would go absolutely terribly for him. His son Peter was apprenticing at a famous downtown restaurant, but the kid had a massive mouth, and had already made bitter enemies all across our courtyard. But honestly, I felt sorry for Harry's daughter Rain the most. I figured when the time came, I would drop a hint. If Harry listened, great. If not, that was on him. I reached workshop 2 before anyone else, fired up my lathe, and got straight back to work on the bearing. A young worker named Frank showed up and greeted me. I just nodded without stopping. He watched me for a moment, then went to his own station. Within 30 minutes, the shop floor was totally packed with workers. 3 days later, the boss came over to collect my finished bearing. He held it against the blueprint, studied it carefully, then gave me a big thumbs up. Outstanding work. I'm taking this straight to the director. He rushed off. I simply shrugged and returned to my regular tasks. My hands felt sharper than ever. Like machining, that tough bearing pushed my skills up a whole notch. I finished my daily quota in under 2 hours. I barely shut down my lathe when the foreman came back, grinning from ear to ear. Let that sink in for a second. Your work beat the American part. So tomorrow, you are officially a senior machinist. I paused for a second, then nodded calmly and said thanks. Right behind me, Frank overheard this massive news, let out a loud yelp, and totally ruined his part. Frank, do you know exactly how important that piece was? The foreman barked. That is 30,000 deducted from your pay. Have it on my desk tomorrow. Then he turned back to me, completely smiling again. I put in a great word for you with the director, you know. Anyway, just keep up the amazing work. He shot one last angry glare at Frank and strolled out of the workshop. What a total bootlicker, Frank muttered quietly. Once he left, then he rushed over to me. Jack, is it true? You're actually becoming a senior machinist? I told him that was what the foreman said, and I had zero reason to doubt it. Man, 70,000 monthly. That is 20,000 more than you make now. You are set. Frank just shook his head in envy. The massive news spread through the workshop before lunch. People kept coming over to congratulate me until I could not take it anymore and escaped to a quiet corner out back. I just lit a cigarette when I suddenly heard William behind me. I knew you'd be hiding here. I just grinned and handed him a smoke. He took a long drag, blew a smoke ring, and studied me closely. Is it actually true? I nodded. The foreman said it himself. William broke into a huge smile and slapped my shoulder hard. In all the years this place existed, nobody ever jumped 3 ranks in under 3 years, going from an apprentice to a senior machinist. You're the first. It's all because you taught me well, I told him. He kicked me. Don't insult me. No other apprentice came close. Trust me, you and I are gonna love what happens next. Stick with me here. My teacher said it was just my talent, but deep down, being surpassed by his own student made him absolutely thrilled and so proud. I cheerfully offered to buy him a huge meal to celebrate. He politely refused. He knew my family situation, telling me to save up. Catch me after next month's paycheck. He laughed. Back inside the busy workshop, just endless, happy congratulations everywhere. By lunch, a massive crowd of co-workers swarmed me, heading to the cafeteria, constantly begging to become apprentices. I happily dodged their questions. William just trailed behind everyone, smiling so quietly. Sam, another mid-level machinist, walked up to William. Huge congrats on training a senior master. I am jealous. William totally laughed it off, giving me all the credit, but I could tell he was absolutely thrilled. Those two were always friendly workshop rivals, and now William held the ultimate bragging rights. Meanwhile, over in the busy cafeteria kitchen, Harry caught the wild news from one of the staff women. Jack, that lively kid from the courtyard, a senior machinist, at 17? Harry was completely and utterly stunned. He knew I was talented. My home cooking easily rivaled top chefs for him, but he never expected my actual metalworking skills to be just as incredibly mind-blowing and extraordinary. I could totally sense Harry plotting. You see where this is heading? A 17-year-old master is valuable. He wanted my favor. Later that afternoon, I asked for new tasks, but the foreman happily turned me away. As a new senior machinist, he said, no more boring, routine jobs for me today. I would only be called for tasks needing a true master. That is when it finally hit me. This position was huge. Even the grand factory director treats senior masters with maximum respect. Strolling out of that office, I honestly felt oddly lost. After working completely non-stop for a year and a half, suddenly, I had absolutely nothing to do. But that weird emptiness vanished fast. I already had an epic plan brewing. I needed to learn new skills. Being a worker was perfectly fine today. Workers hold high status now, but from my past life, I remembered the tricky stuff coming later, like massive layoffs and sudden factory closures. Even if I was completely financially safe by then, I refused to just sit around waiting. More importantly, I knew about those upcoming partnership reforms. I could set myself up for something way bigger, but that meant serious studying. Going back to regular school was impossible. I had siblings to raise, plus zero formal schooling before the big liberation happened anyway. I would just teach myself for now, waiting patiently for the perfect opportunity. Like those awesome literacy programs I knew were coming later. This wild news hit workshop one like dynamite. I completely missed the actual moment, but heard later. Some guy happily returned from the cafeteria, loudly announcing to everyone that I became a senior machinist. Nobody believed him. We both know anime logic, right? They called it absolutely impossible, claiming even peak geniuses need 3 to 5 years to make that jump. A senior master could grab any part, feel the details, quickly glance at dimensions, and flawlessly replicate the whole thing right in their mind. A 17-year-old reaching that tier? No way. Then the foreman strolled in, catching the whole crew just standing around arguing about my promotion. He shooed them back to work, but when that worker repeated the wild rumor, even the tough foreman stood there completely stunned. Right then, Henry awkwardly walked in with apprentice Derek. Henry was a mid-level guy in Workshop 1, the exact same man who rejected me as an apprentice years ago. Hearing this news, his famously calm expression completely cracked apart. He shouted it was impossible. He had been grinding at mid-level forever, never even daring to dream of hitting senior status within 5 years. How could I have achieved it already? But deep down, he absolutely believed it, and honestly, really stung him. Rejecting me easily became his absolute worst decision ever. He nervously glanced at Derek, his current apprentice, and his eyes showed serious, complicated regret. Derek lacked my raw talent, not even coming close. But Henry chose him anyway. Derek's tough family situation basically guaranteed he would stay super loyal, grateful, and help Henry in his old age. I could not offer that with 3 siblings. Henry desperately convinced himself he made the right choice, then pulled Derek aside to practice basic skills. I happily knew absolutely nothing about this drama right then. I was busy strolling through the lively workshop, casually checking on the other workers. As the second senior master there, people suddenly treated me with massive, genuine respect. Now, these seasoned guys survived the harsh old society. They completely understood how things worked. Even feeling jealous, they refused to show it. Instead, they smiled super wide, cheerfully, asking me for awesome technique pointers. After one quick lap, I could not handle the spotlight and quietly slipped outside. Standing right in the yard, I cheerfully reviewed my master plan. Sitting around doing nothing? No way. I marched straight to the foreman's office and knocked. "Ah, Master Jack, what can I do for you?" I bravely admitted I hated doing absolutely nothing. "So what do you and I do next?" I boldly asked to go master brand new skills in other workshops. "Let us dive in. You and I know sneaking around is easy, but making it official totally avoids messy questions later on. That way, my brand new skills have a clear history." The boss just stopped, crossing his arms and carefully weighing his options. He gave it some serious thought before dropping his brutally honest take. He totally loved my ambition, but flat out called it a huge mistake. Mastering locks literally takes a whole lifetime, and my promotion was fresh. This was step 1, not the end. Even absolute top-tier experts had massive skill gaps. He basically told me to stay focused instead of spreading thin. But honestly, I completely caught his hidden meaning. I was his absolute golden goose. If I picked up new trades, some rival department would definitely try to steal me away. No way he risked that. So I looked right at him, nodded super politely, and faked agreeing that I acted too fast. I walked out completely unfazed. He had zero clue about my secret cheat. I could master insane skills way faster than anyone else. But arguing was totally pointless right now. Time for plan B. Leaving work, I asked Mr. Wong to kindly warn my siblings about my delay. Then I caught a bus straight to Anong Market. This antique district was legendary. Pack stalls sold everything from mysterious old texts and foreign novels to shiny new technical manuals. The market was totally packed. I strolled the narrow rows, carefully scanning every shelf. Taking my time. "Jack, you book hunting too?" I turned and spotted Leo, a great coworker from my own workshop. We had a great vibe, always casually geeking out over metalworking. He pointed at a nearby vendor packed with manuals and asked to team up. I gladly followed. Those books actually looked incredibly detailed. Suddenly, I found the absolute jackpot. A stack of rare technical guides covering classic electrical work and complex mechanical designs. Watch closely here. My heart literally jumped. 30,000 each? I visibly winced. You and I know that price is absolutely wild. This knowledge was pure gold, but getting totally scammed was definitely not on my agenda. Leo noticed my hesitation and asked why. Hearing the crazy price, he frowned too, suggesting we keep hunting for better deals. We walked that entire busy market, finding absolutely nothing. I was losing all hope until we stumbled past a tiny, hidden corner stall. Glancing over, spotted an old, worn-out machinist guide. But that incredibly epic title instantly grabbed my absolute full attention. Flipping the dusty pages, the content was pure genius. packed with awesome practical tips and incredible real-world master secrets. 25,000, better, but still pricey. Before I paid, Leo heroically jumped right in to aggressively negotiate with the owner. Can you drop that price down? Give us a sweet discount and we will happily buy a huge stack. The boss hesitated, then finally nodded. 20,000. Leo and I quickly grabbed our favorite manuals, happily paying him with huge smiles, leaving there completely loaded with crazy cool electrical and mechanical guides. My excitement was going straight through the roof right now. This heavy stack was the ultimate foundation for my epic training arc. Leo and I fist bumped goodbye, and I rode straight home. By the time I finally reached my courtyard, it was totally dark. Strolling into the front courtyard, some skinny guy in a drab suit was pretending to water flowers, his eyes totally locked on the main gate. That was Edgar, our incredibly annoying local courtyard teacher, wearing glasses and a very nerdy vibe. His sneaky eyes totally lit up the second he finally spotted me walking by. He asked if my big promotion was actually real. My bookstore hype was still going strong, but his sneaky little ambush totally killed my mood. I simply nodded, said, "Evening, Uncle Edgar," and kept right on walking. He tried speaking again, but I vanished. I clearly heard him loudly grumbling about my terrible manners behind my back. The ugly truth. When my father tragically passed away, Edgar cowardly backed off. Terrified our struggling family would become his massive burden, he completely vanished, and never once stood up for us. We both know guys like this. Suddenly wanting friendship? Way too late. Crossing the middle courtyard, a super sneaky shadow suddenly darted past the east window. I completely ignored the weird drama and marched straight toward the back. Little Lily sat alone by our door, crying out. She jumped up and happily ran toward me on her tiny legs. I caught her, playfully bumping foreheads. "Have you eaten?" She cried that Daniel lacked skills and she was way too tiny. She was literally starving. Instant guilt hit me hard. I asked where my brothers went, and she said they ran over to Martin's house. He was the energetic Sioux family kid, living right in our back courtyard. Despite the nasty rumors from my past life memories, Martin was genuinely not a bad kid at all. He was surprisingly street smart, super outgoing, and got along amazingly well with Daniel. Those two shared the same classroom anyway. I happily carried Lily inside, dropped my awesome new manuals down, and charged straight into the kitchen. Instantly, glorious sounds of fast chopping and sizzling filled the air. Lily waited, chin in hands, practically drooling. Trust me, you and I absolutely live for these wholesome family moments. Get the bowls out, I yelled. Stick with me here, because this dinner is pure magic. I served sesame cabbage and potatoes, making Lily gasp. She happily stuffed a massive bite into her mouth, mumbling how amazing it tasted. Then I called her brothers. Daniel and Tommy sprinted in, grinning ear to ear. "What smells so insanely good?" Daniel yelled from the hallway. We gathered around, and I kept piling food on their plates, checking in on their school day. Such a warm, breezy evening, making all the hard work completely worth it. After eating, I quickly washed up and sent them to study. The second they were tucked into bed, I finally crashed at my desk. I lit a small lamp and cracked open my new books. That manual was fantastic for reference, easily solidifying what I already knew. But honestly, the huge books on electrical work and mechanical design were the real absolute treasures here. They were my golden ticket. I stayed up super late, highlighting text, scribbling notes everywhere, pausing just to think. The entire courtyard outside went completely silent in the heavy dark. Everyone was totally knocked out, but I kept pushing. I knew mastering this wild era meant I desperately needed way more than just one basic skill to survive. Meanwhile, across the courtyard in the middle court, Henry was wide awake. "Now watch this." He just tossed and turned, obsessing over what the workshop foreman said. He replayed the day I begged to be his apprentice and his brutal rejection. Just 18 months later, I skyrocketed from total newbie to a top-tier senior machinist. And his actual student, Derek, the guy couldn't even handle a basic part after all that time. The regret was literally eating him alive. Derek looked smarter on paper, but the true skill gap was downright embarrassing. His wife Margaret stirred, asking him what was wrong. He totally brushed her off, denying everything. He couldn't admit his greedy logic from back then. He picked Derek, hoping the kid would stay loyal, incredibly grateful, and serve him well in old age. Staring into the bright moonlight, he stubbornly tried, forcing himself to believe he made the right call. "It is not my fault," he muttered. "That kid is just an unnatural monster." He finally slept. The next morning, my routine continued. Emptied the pot, lit up the stove, cooked a solid breakfast, practiced my boxing moves in the yard, got the kids up, and sent them off. After they left, I shoved the heavy books I was reading last night straight into my bag and headed out to the factory. Workers cheerfully called out along the way. "Morning, Master Jack." Super weird, honestly. I totally wasn't used to all this fame, but I just smiled and waved back gracefully. I hit workshop too, thinking I was early, but some apprentices were already grinding. The second they saw me, they stood up completely straight. I jumped into my station, grabbed a piece, and instantly started practicing. I wanted to test last night's insane book, techniques on actual solid metal. Boom, it clicked. My hands moved completely on instinct, super smooth. One fluid motion bleeding right into the next. Brilliant ideas sparked like crazy while I worked, constantly adjusting and heavily refining. You saw their faces, right? The apprentices stared wide-eyed, realizing the simple move was actually insanely difficult. I finished the cut and measured. The dimensions and precision, absolutely flawless. I shut my eyes, reviewed the exact process, grabbed another piece, and went crazy. 30 minutes later, I had multiple parts finished, every single one meeting strict factory specs. The apprentices completely lost their minds. "Master Jack, you're unbelievable." I casually claimed it was just basic practice, that anybody could do this with enough reps. They definitely weren't buying that. Suddenly, one brave guy gathered his courage. "Will you take us as apprentices?" I froze, completely understanding that desperate hunger. I totally remembered wanting to learn that badly, but I was literally 17. Every apprentice here was way older, and honestly, my own personal standards were insanely high. I valued deep loyalty just as much as talent. I absolutely refused to train anyone who might turn ungrateful. "I won't accept apprentices," I told them flatly, "but you are welcome to watch me. Any questions, I will answer." That small opening made them incredibly ecstatic. They crowded in tight while I demonstrated machining steps, explaining every single move I made. Some advanced tips I casually dropped were way more detailed and miles easier to grasp than their actual master's old teachings. Soon, regular older workers started gathering around, eagerly listening. Then the morning bell killed it. They all thanked me, slowly shuffling back to work. Right then, William marched over wearing a super serious face. "Playing teacher now, huh?" I just scratched my head, feeling awkward, but he cut right to the point. "Those guys all have official masters. If those masters realize I am out here teaching their students, it could spark some brutal, toxic resentment. Here, that bond is basically sacred." My helpful little teaching moment could definitely be seen as massively overstepping. That hit me like freezing water. He was completely right. I was careless. I promised him it wouldn't happen again. So what do you and I learn here? In a factory full of pride, surviving means watching your step perfectly. Listen up. You and I are about to see why sharing skills here was actually a huge insult to these masters. So going forward, my lips were sealed. I would only share my knowledge if a masterless rookie begged, or if things got incredibly desperate. Point taken. I completely backed off, spending my entire morning just chilling and reading quietly in a dusty corner of the workshop. The boss had absolutely zero jobs for me, so, face straight into my books. Come lunchtime, William sat across from me looking totally stressed. He worried. He went way too hard on me earlier today. I shook my head. Nope. He was totally right. I was acting way too careless, and honestly, that completely relieved him. Catching sight of my book, he asked if it was for school. I just slid over the intense machinist manual I grabbed from the Anung bookshop. He flipped the pages, eyes going wide. These next-level techniques actually gave him some massive mental breakthroughs on the spot. "This is amazing," he muttered. "Study it hard." Then his face dropped. "The reality is, I cannot keep up anymore. You have outgrown every single thing I teach." I wanted to comfort him, but absolutely no words came out. I stood there totally flustered. William laughed at my panic. He knew I was never the best with words. Patting my shoulder, he smiled. Remember, I am your master. That is enough. I will never forget it. Post-lunch, I vanished back into my corner and read until William finally called out, "Quitting time." I completely lost track of the hours. Walking into the courtyard, neighbors greeted me warmly. Another thing I was not exactly used to yet. I just nodded, making a beeline for the rear court. I heard some wild drama kicking off in the middle courtyard, but completely ignored it to drop off my bag. Getting right to dinner prep, I mixed dough for steamed buns. Now watch closely with me. The courtyard noise exploded, and a lanky teen came sprinting straight into the back area. That was Martin. Right on his heels, an older guy, sprinting and completely cursing him out. "Martin, you little punk, freeze. Who are you calling stupid?" Whoever answers to it. The angry chaser was Peter, son of Harry. I had heard all the rumors, but never met him in my 2 years here. Harry shipped him off ages ago to apprentice at some super famous restaurant downtown. He was obviously just home on a quick break. I started doing the mental math. If my memory of the original TV show plotline was accurate, Harry actually runs off with the widow later this exact year. Meanwhile, Peter had already been apprenticing for 2 straight years. Just 1 more year, and he would finally become a proper cook. Without Henry completely messing up the original storyline, Peter would have just stayed downtown, perfectly supporting himself and his little sister Rain without any drama. Why he eventually quits to work at the steel mill as a basic apprentice. I guess Henry sabotaged him behind the scenes. But hey, that was not my problem. The courtyard crowd loved the drama. People leaned right out of their doors, loudly cheering for both sides. "Peter, grab a stick. Martin, stand and fight like a man." Nobody wanted peace here. They just wanted some premium entertainment. Suddenly, the voice of Harry absolutely boomed across the yard. "Peter, get back inside." He froze instantly, glaring at Martin, retreating. "Just wait. I will settle this later." Martin caught his breath and spat back. "Total idiot. I'm definitely not scared of you." Then Martin finally spotted me standing by the kitchen with my food. He quickly stood tall. "Hey, Jack, aren't you home totally early? School does not let out until 5. His eyes nervously shifted. "Yeah, I felt super sick, so I took the afternoon off." "Come on. We both know he completely skipped class, right? But whatever." I just gave him a knowing smirk. "Sick, huh? Sick enough to be sprinting laps around the courtyard?" He at least looked embarrassed for 1 second before totally raging about Peter again. "Everyone in town calls him Stupid Pete, but when I do it, he goes crazy. It is so unfair, and I am definitely not the stupid one. I'm just telling facts." I shook my head. If you know you cannot win a fight, why keep relentlessly poking him? It genuinely puzzled me. Peter was away for 2 years. Whatever grudge they had should have completely faded by now. But nope, the exact second they locked eyes, they clashed like 2 violently repelling magnets. I guess some folks are literally born to be sworn enemies. Martin just sneered when I asked why he provoked him. I just cannot stand his arrogant face. He acts incredibly high and mighty when he is obviously a total idiot. His eyes flashed with pure, genuine disgust. I completely gave up reasoning with the guy. Let them destroy each other. Definitely not my problem. "Hey, we are finally home," Daniel called out cheerfully, and my 3 little siblings came marching right into the back court, carrying their heavy bags. Lily instantly spotted me and sprinted over on her tiny legs. "Careful now." I easily caught her, tapping her nose. "What if you wipe out?" She just giggled. "I knew you would catch me." I sent the boys to wash up, then politely invited Martin to stick around for some dinner. He quickly declined and dashed home, carrying Lily straight into the kitchen. Got back to work. "What are we having tonight?" The boys appeared. "Buns and soup." Lily beamed. "So wholesome, right? This exact vibe is why you and I love these stories. Stick with me here." I chased Tommy and the kids out so I could start cooking. Northern-style batter drop soup was my absolute favorite recipe from my past life, back when my cooking skills were just painfully average at best. But now, my upgraded skills made it super fast. 4 steaming bowls instantly hit the table. The kids completely devoured it all. Lily called it the greatest soup ever. I just smiled, eating mine. Serving meat every single day would draw too much suspicion, but I found sneaky ways to make cheap ingredients taste amazing. It really worked. All 3 kids had grown noticeably taller this past year. After cleaning, I sat right down with my books while the kids tackled their homework. The room grew completely silent. Just 4 of us studying quietly together. So peaceful. I had basically mastered the machinist manual by now. So I grabbed the mechanical design textbook next. This stuff was definitely tougher. Machining focused on tiny, precise parts. Mechanical design was about massive complete systems. How forces shift, how pieces connect, and which materials work. These fields barely mixed at all. Except that a machinist creates the parts that make these complex designs real. Compared to my machining guides, this design text was a real struggle. But compared to normal people, I was still learning at an insanely fast pace. My super enhanced brain kept activating, making all those ridiculously confusing concepts slowly crystal clear. Looking up, I finally noticed it was pitch black outside. The kids were still going strong. They picked up this intense study habit just by watching me. Every single night after finishing homework, they reviewed their textbooks completely solo. I never even forced them. They just copied my routine until it became second nature, an incredibly good habit, and I always made sure to praise them for their hard work. I quickly answered their questions, heated up some water for them to wash their feet, and sent them to bed. Lying in bed, I finally paused to think. Now pay attention here. You and I are about to look at 2 massive mistakes I actually made. First mistake, teaching those apprentices. Back in my old life, sharing knowledge was totally normal. But this era operated differently. The master-apprentice bond? Sacred. Helping them out definitely earned their gratitude, but it secretly turned every single master in the workshop into an absolute enemy. If William had not stepped in, I would be totally isolated. Second mistake, asking the boss to learn new skills. To me, it made total logical sense. But to him, a massive threat. My only value was my pure machining skills. Asking to improve my current craft would get an instant yes. But branching out meant he had to burn favors with other departments, gaining literally 0 benefit for himself. 0 upside for him meant 0 deal. Honestly, both of these mistakes shared one root. I was still thinking exactly like a guy from the future. Too casual, too open, assuming this whole world worked like my old one. It definitely did not. Lying in the dark, I created a strict new rule. Watch more. Say way less, think first, and stay cautious. Stay extra cautious, then be cautious again. With that settled in my head, I finally slept. I randomly woke up freezing in the middle of the night. The stove died out completely, and the wind howled outside. I really tried sleeping again, but the brutal cold cut right through me. I jumped up, lit the kerosene lamp, and immediately rushed to check on the kids. Daniel and Tommy were completely fine, huddled tightly under their blanket, keeping each other warm. But checking, Lily, you and I both feel this. Seeing her tremble and whisper about being cold just completely shatters your heart. I quickly scooped her right up in her blanket, carried her to my bed, and bundled her tightly under both of our thick quilts. Then, I rushed out into the freezing yard, grabbed a huge armload of firewood, and got that stove roaring again. When I came back inside, her breathing steadied and she relaxed. I checked her forehead for a fever, felt nothing, and exhaled. Sitting alone in the dim light, I stared around our home. Completely bare walls, 1 cabinet, a chair, and a desk. Nothing else. Our blankets were so ridiculously thin, almost transparent. The kids had not got new clothes in 2 whole years. I mentally slapped myself. What was I even doing? I poured all my energy into my machining craft and cooking meals, totally neglecting their most basic needs. We literally had money hidden in the wall. We were not poor. I acted poor just to avoid our neighbors getting suspicious. But my siblings suffered the brutal consequences. They were growing kids, after all. Freezing under thin blankets was not just uncomfortable, it was dangerous. I decided right then, absolutely no more pretending. Their health mattered most. Once the sun came up, we were going shopping for new clothes, warm bedding, and proper furniture. Let those neighbors think whatever they want. Dawn broke. I marched straight into the kitchen, and for the first time in ages, scooped out premium pure white flour instead of our cheap mixed grain. I shaped perfect white steamed buns and loaded up the steamer. 2 eggs hit the boiling water. Trust me, we are going to love what happens next. Come along with me here. A mouth-watering egg soup smell drifted through the yard. making Robert's wife Rose swallow super hard. Who is eating this wonderfully so early? Their son sniffed the morning air, quickly pointing out it came straight from our place. Robert, a mid-level machinist himself, casually shrugged it off. He figured I was simply celebrating my recent promotion. Rose just shook her head, looking totally amazed by it. 2 years back, nobody believed in our struggling family. After my dad George passed away, a local thug named Kin tried seizing our rooms. I absolutely wrecked him. His gang actually came back for revenge the very next day, and I completely crushed every single one. I only stopped because the old grandma pleaded. After that epic showdown, the entire courtyard kept away. They felt super guilty for ignoring us and feared my grudge. Only Harry and Martin kept their families talking to us. I called the kids for a huge breakfast. Daniel, Tommy, and Lily happily stumbled out. Lily looked up with super watery, emotional eyes. I slept in my bed, but woke up in yours, she said, lip trembling, and I accidentally wet the bed. Your blanket got soaked too. She suddenly burst out crying. I gently picked her up, wiping her face. That is honestly no big deal. Do not cry. Listen, today I'm taking everyone out to buy fresh blankets and brand new clothes. How about that? Tommy went completely wide-eyed. Really? New clothes? Go inside, it is freezing. Daniel, help me carry the food. He just stared at the massive steamer of premium white buns. Are you completely insane? You used all our white flour? We have not had these since our dad passed away. I playfully smacked his head and laughed out loud. Your brother is a senior machinist now, making over 700,000. We can easily afford this. 700,000? Daniel looked stunned. You and I absolutely love moments like this. He was making double what their late father ever earned. Seriously? Yes, seriously. Now stop chatting and carry those buns inside quickly. We have an epic shopping mission to accomplish right after breakfast. I laid it all out. 4 bowls of egg soup, fresh greens, shredded potatoes, and a massive basket of pure white steamed buns. Lily's eyes sparkled like stars. They are so white. I rubbed her head, telling everyone to eat. We had shopping to do. After cleaning up, I locked up and led the kids through our courtyard. Harry sat by his door, half asleep. He opened his eyes, hearing us. Where are you headed? Taking them to buy new clothes. Theirs do not fit anymore. He smiled warmly. Look at you, all grown up, taking care of family. I thanked him, and we kept moving. In the front court, screaming erupted from Edgar's place. Then Edgar rushed out, frantically begging old Wu for a cart. His wife was actually in labor. I just thought. So Edgar's 3rd child is finally arriving today. I wondered if Edgar would become the super cheap miser I remembered from the classic show. But I never stopped my walking pace. 3 alleys down, I found the exact tailor shop my dad always used. The place was tiny, but their outstanding work easily beat any standard store-bought clothes. Anyone here? I yelled from the door. A middle-aged lady in a floral jacket appeared, recognizing us instantly. I politely told her I needed 2 brand new outfits for each of the 3 kids. She looked at me gently, asking why I skipped getting anything for myself. Oh, I have my sturdy work uniform. That is plenty. She sighed, knowing my struggles, but completely understood. She measured them, revealing the price. 300,000 total, 10,000 down, the rest on pickup. 50,000 per outfit. I winced internally, but happily paid the deposit. 5 days until ready. Outside, he stood clueless. I know what you are thinking. How do you navigate a city with 0 memories from either past life? Then I remembered Shicha High Lake. It showed up constantly in classic stories from this era, and was super close to our lane. Half an hour later, we finally arrived. Honestly, I was slightly disappointed. Just a massive, partly frozen lake with basic railings, missing epic scenery. Locals were fishing calmly. Excited kids skated on the ice, their joyful laughter echoing across the water. Can we skate too? Daniel asked, eyes completely full of hope. I almost said no, too dangerous. But seeing his hopeful face, I totally caved. Tommy and Lily instantly chimed in, me too. I playfully poked both their little foreheads. Fine, all of you. I quickly rented 3 pairs of skates for 3,000 yuan from a lakeside shore stall. I laced up their tiny skates, trailing behind them on the ice, with arms spread wide open, perfectly ready to catch anyone falling over. They heavily wobbled and swayed. My racing heart pounded, but they brilliantly figured the ice out incredibly fast. Within minutes, they found perfect balance, gliding carefully first, then moving faster and faster, zooming completely past my safe reach. I briefly panicked, almost shouting them back, but pure laughter stopped me. I just walked much faster, staying incredibly close. Seeing their energy finally drop, I yelled, "Time to go." They softly protested, but obediently followed along. Returning the skates, we left Shicha High with grinning kids. We barely walked away when Lily's tiny voice piped up, "I am so hungry." Seeing those big eyes, we both felt that. He picked her up, asked about food, and that wraps our sweet story today. Let's dive in. Responsible Daniel played it cool, but Tommy just yelled, "Roast duck." Daniel glared right at him. Do you know how expensive roast duck is? Money doesn't grow on trees. Poor Tommy's excited face instantly crumbled. He stared down, mumbling to forget it. Then sweet Lily hugged my neck. "I don't even like duck anyway. I love your cooking more, big brother." I ruffled Tommy's hair. "Stop crying. Real men never shed tears over roast duck." "We are totally going," Daniel protested again. "You are spoiling him too much. How will you save enough to get married?" I just stared. He was 12 and already stressing over our family budget. "I make over 700,000 a month. I think we can handle one dinner." Daniel finally shut up, but spent the entire bus ride glaring daggers at Tommy. I held back a huge laugh, grabbed his hand, and pulled. Most folks hit up Kwanjud for roast duck, but my coworkers swore Bianyi Fan was just as incredibly delicious and way more budget-friendly. 50,000 per duck instead of 80. We walked right in, and that mouth-watering smell hit us immediately. I confidently ordered 2 ducks. When those glistening platters arrived, the kids stared in shock. "Eat up." They absolutely attacked the food. Grease ran down every single chin, mine included. It was worth every yuan. Afterward, I sent the kids off to play and walk through our rooms, planning things out. No more pretending to be poor. It was finally time to fix this house. Insulation, furniture, warm bedding. I studied the layout, got some ideas, then headed right over to Harry's place. He was chilling on his bed, sipping wine with some peanuts. I asked if he knew any skilled craftsmen nearby. He grinned widely. "Fixing up the house? Getting ready for a wife?" I said no, I just needed repairs and insulation. "Now pay attention here." He claimed the absolute best builder around was Master Ray, a legend whose family literally used to build massive mansions for high nobility. His skills are the best in the city. He charges more, but he is completely worth it. Money was not a concern at all. I asked where to find him. Harry drained his wine, grabbed his coat, and walked me straight to Cotton Flower Lane. The deeper we went, the quieter and more remote it got. We stopped at a small one-courtyard house. Harry knocked. A woman in a gray padded jacket opened the door and brightened up upon seeing Harry. "Oh, it is you. Come in." The huge yard was packed with stacked lumber of every single kind. She went to fetch her husband, while we quietly sipped the warm water she poured us. An old man emerged from inside, brushing thick dust off his gray coat. He looked about 60, sporting a thin white beard, curling slightly at the tip. He kindly apologized for keeping us waiting, and Harry happily introduced me. "This young man wants to renovate his entire house. I brought him to the best." Master Ray briefly mentioned how his descendants had lost their massive old properties and how incredibly lucky he was to keep this small place. Then he finally got down to real business. "So, young man, what kind of work do you actually need done?" I told him I wanted to deeply repair and properly insulate my rooms. I asked what the entire process would look like and what it would cost. "What kind of major renovations did you have in mind?" Master Ray asked. I fully explained everything. Better insulation, interior walls, proper flooring. He listened so quietly, then admitted it sounded doable, but he really needed to see the place first. Harry eagerly suggested we go right away, since it was still pretty early. Back home, I walked Master Ray through every single room, laying out my plans. Then I confidently pointed to the side room and asked the biggest question. Could he actually turn it into a modern bathroom with a toilet and wash area? He studied the space carefully, then slowly shook his head. "Everything else is totally fine, but toilets need drainage pipes. and this part of the city simply lacks that specific infrastructure. Yet, he was totally right. We both felt that pain, right? Thanks to my past life memories. I knew South Gong Lane wouldn't get plumbing until the reform era. My indoor bathroom dream was dead. I was disappointed, but moved on. How long would the rest take? 10 days to 2 weeks, just depending on materials and labor. With extra hands, 10 days should do it. And the total cost? He calculated. If you provide materials yourself, 1 million. If I handle literally everything, materials, labor, all of it, 3 million. I glanced at Harry, who quickly nodded. 3 million was fair. Let's do it. Here is 1 million up front. I handed him cash. He counted it, and promised his entire reputation was on the line. The work would be first rate. After he left, I properly thanked Harry. Do not cook tonight. I'm making dinner for you, Peter, and Rain. Harry laughed, waving it off as no big deal, but he still did not refuse. He said he had a really good bottle of wine we could share. We had a deal. That is where we leave it today. I grabbed 5 million from my hidden box, and immediately hit Chaoyang Market. For Harry, I bought 3 pounds of thick pork belly, a whole chicken, pound of fresh mushrooms, tasty peanuts, plus extra seasonings. Heading home, I slapped my forehead. I had completely forgotten to buy new bedding. I quickly detoured to Annie Wong's tailor shop, ordering 4 sets of quilts and warm blankets to be safely picked up and paid for alongside the clothes. Back at the bustling courtyard, Peter and Martin were at it again. Come along with me on this one. I heard them shouting way outside the gate. Those two simply could not exist without fighting. The little ones finally returned from next door at the Yangs. That family had 4 kids matching my siblings in age, and the whole bunch of them were absolute best friends. Little Tommy instantly noticed the fresh pork belly. Wait, you bought meat? I lightly patted his head. Sharp eyes. Harry really helped us out, so I am cooking an epic thank you feast. Now go play while I get started. Barely 30 minutes later, the mouth-watering scent of frying pork completely filled our whole courtyard. Next door, Rose swallowed heavily. Who is cooking expensive meat this early tonight? Wasn't it that exact same family just this morning? Robert, just a mid-level machinist, told her to stop snooping around. Listen, that kid is a senior machinist now, okay? He can easily afford some meat. Meanwhile, their son glared at his plain flour buns and potato scraps, completely losing his appetite in total jealousy. Back in the rear courtyard, Martin's dad Philip sat at dinner, deeply smelling the roasted pork from my kitchen and feeling incredibly bitter. He was super proud of his life. He started from absolute zero, worked his way up to be the Liu family chauffeur, then smartly became a factory projectionist when the political climate suddenly shifted directions. He genuinely considered himself a master of the times. But regarding his own son, he always compared Martin to my family. My brothers and sister easily scored the absolute highest grades. Martin despised studying so badly that Philip literally had to force him through middle school. Philip wondered if the only real difference was that we lost our dad, as if that tragic hardship somehow forced my siblings to grow stronger. Now watch closely. He gave Martin a disgusted sigh. Meanwhile, Harry dug through his cabinets for a legendary vintage wine he had saved for years. Peter watched him and scowled hard. You're really sucking up to that guy just because he reached senior machinist. Harry totally smacked his head. I am doing all this for you and Rain, idiot. He is young and already peaking. You really think you will never need his favor? He is a metalworker, and I am just a cook. What would I ever need from him? Smack. How did I possibly raise such a foolish kid? Peter grumbled. Maybe if you stopped hitting me, I would actually be smarter. Harry kicked him outside to grab Rain, grabbed his precious wine bottle, and quickly followed behind. They reached my door just as cheerful Lily bounced outside. She grabbed Rain's hand, politely greeted Uncle Harry and Brother Pete, then dragged Rain right indoors. They are here, Lily shouted. I heard them, stepped out of the kitchen, wiped my hands, and smiled brightly. Grab a seat. Food is almost done. Minutes later, the entire table overflowed. Mushroom chicken stew, perfectly braised pork belly, rich potato pork soup, spicy shredded potatoes, and a massive basket of white fluffy buns. Harry told me to stop going overboard, but I just laughed. I set up a separate kids' table for my 3 plus Rain, then joined Harry and Peter. Go ahead, dig in. They slowly picked up their wooden chopsticks. You and I totally saw this coming, right? After one bite, both absolutely froze. Harry stared at me, totally stunned. This easily exceeds all my expectations. You have completely surpassed me. Peter's eyes went huge. This literally tastes like Master Lu from Typhoon Restaurant. That guy was the elite head chef. Peter had only tried his food once during 2 years of apprenticeship, and he never, ever forgot it. And now, he experienced that exact same legendary skill in my humble kitchen. I just casually shrugged. I'm just a machinist cooking for family. It is nothing crazy. Harry shook his head. He had tried recruiting me as his culinary apprentice before, and I politely refused. Barely 1 year later, I surpassed him completely without formal training, just by whipping up simple family dinners. Pure, bitter regret was painted across his face. If he pushed harder before, he might have secured a genius student. Curious, Peter asked exactly how I cooked every single dish. I saw zero reason to hide my secrets, so I casually walked them through my methods, step by step. Both father and son listened with glowing eyes, their chopsticks totally forgotten in hand. When I finally finished explaining my techniques, Harry released a massive breath. I have been cooking for decades, and I never knew it had this many amazing layers. I completely understood his shock. In this era, masters always hid their best tricks from their apprentices. Countless recipes vanished over generations because of that. But in my past life, internet food bloggers revived ancient dishes and freely shared everything online. I learned a ton from watching those videos. My wild approach clashed with tradition, but it sparked massive inspiration for old Harry. Peter kept nodding along, soaking up every word. Then Harry turned to his son, his face turning incredibly serious. Everything Jack taught us tonight, you never repeat to anyone, ever, or I will seriously disown you. I tried to brush it off. I never planned on becoming a chef, so who cares if people know? But Harry absolutely refused to back down. In our trade, this matters. He smacked Peter until he swore silence. So what do you and I take from this? True mastery always wins. Alright, let us jump right in. Harry cracked his prized bottle, pouring cups for us, completely ignoring little Peter begging for a taste. We clinked our glasses and drank deeply. That premium liquor burned like pure lightning down my throat, before wrapping my entire body in amazing warmth. Really good stuff, I told him. Harry just laughed, agreeing completely. He had saved it for years. Peter whined, until Harry finally caved, pouring him a cup. 30 minutes later, Peter was completely passed out on the table. Harry muttered under his breath, dragged his sleeping son home, then returned for more. I quickly cleaned up, washed the kids, and hit the bed. The drinks knocked me out. Next morning expected a headache, but felt perfectly clear. Pure grain liquor beats the cheap chemical stuff from my past life. I tackled my daily routine cooking, boxing, breakfast, and sending the kids to school. 10 days passed. Watch closely, because those 10 days of waiting for Master Ray were pure torture. With my home totally wrecked, the kids stayed with Harry. I even grabbed a second-hand bed. But Harry and Peter snored like literal thunderstorms every night. I missed 10 nights of proper sleep, and my entire study schedule was ruined. I desperately wanted my place back. Master Ray arrived on time. We stepped inside, and my breath caught. It was exactly what I imagined, but even better. Those 3 old rooms were transformed into a genuine home. The entrance opened right into a massive 20 square meter living room, featuring sleek stairs along the wall leading up to a loft. The other side connected smoothly to the guest room. Below the loft sat a dining area, bedroom, and a 10 square meter storage space. Upstairs featured 2 massive 20 square meter bedrooms, one for the boys, and one for Lily. The side room was split into 2 incredibly bright, spacious, and perfectly insulated guest suites. Master Ray earned every single yuan. I praised his beautiful work and legendary reputation, while he simply bowed modestly. I handed over the remaining 2 million. He counted carefully, nodded, and we shook hands. The neighborhood gossips already told him I was a senior machinist making over 700,000 a month, so he knew I was totally reliable. No haggling, just clean business. I will leave now, he stated with a bow. Take care, Master Ray. I watched him leave, standing inside my newly upgraded home, finally feeling my family had a truly incredible place. Once he was gone, I scanned the empty rooms and quickly realized we desperately needed some furniture. Since I already had the day off, I figured I might as well get everything sorted out immediately. Custom furniture takes way too long, so I marched straight to the consignment shop at Dongdan Market. I know what you're thinking, but the exact moment I left, every nosy neighbor pressed their faces against my new windows, absolutely gawking. They were completely stunned. One woman held up 3 fingers, announcing the 3 million price tag, making the others almost faint. 3 million equals 3 years of food, but someone quickly reminded them, my massive salary covers that in just 6 short months. That sparked endless, bitter complaints about their own husbands still being stuck as low-level workers. I wouldn't have cared anyway. I was totally done pretending to be poor. The shop was completely empty now. An old man snoozed behind the counter while a saleswoman led me toward a massive back room, packed wall-to-wall with epic second-hand furniture. First thing catching my eye was a gorgeous antique chair. I smoothly ran my hand along its elegant surface. How much? 500,000. It is yellow rosewood, Ming Dynasty style, and these absolutely sell out fast. I pointed at a double bed. 3 million for red sandalwood, supposedly smuggled right out of the imperial palace. I turned away. Everything I actually liked was made from precious wood, carrying some crazy historical backstory. Apparently, my taste was way too expensive for my wallet, or at least beyond what I felt like dropping on furniture today. I checked the ordinary section, where prices were actually reasonable. After searching forever, I spent roughly 1.5 million total, securing absolutely everything I needed. 3 wardrobes, a kitchen cabinet, a dining table, for bookshelves, 5 chairs, 3 beds, and a rosewood vanity. That vanity cost 300,000, but I bought it just for Lily. I hired 2 porters with the cart to haul everything back to the courtyard. The women stared openly as I hauled furniture inside. I paid the porters 5,000 for setup help. When I stepped outside, the women instantly ambushed me. Can we look inside? I hesitated, but agreed. They flooded in, jaws completely dropping. The windows hadn't shown the whole picture earlier. Now, standing inside with all the furniture placed, they honestly could not believe it. And trust me, seeing their shocked faces over the loft design was priceless. Did this really cost 3 million? She asked. Yes, I answered. Stick with me, no point hiding it. They watched everything happen. If only we could do the same, another whispered, eyeing the upstairs bedrooms. I let them look around for a bit, then politely kicked everyone right out. I still needed to grab the new clothes and bedding from Annie Wong's shop. I held off while the house was messy, but now everything was finally ready to go. Once the women left, I grabbed those clothes and bedding from Annie Wong's shop, then spent the whole afternoon scrubbing the place down, wiping down all the furniture, scrubbing the floors, and making beds. I completely skipped lunch. By the time I finished, the entire house looked bright and absolutely spotless. I folded the fresh clothes neatly into the wardrobes, laid out those cozy upstairs quilts, and stood back, feeling totally satisfied. To celebrate, I hit the market for a pound of pork and a whole chicken. Back in the kitchen, I had made one truly genius upgrade during our massive renovation. Instead of leaving the kitchen in the side room right by the courtyard, where nosy neighbors could smell everything I cooked, I moved it inside, against the back wall, bordering the empty lot behind us. I had Master Ray cut 3 awesome ventilation holes, right through the wall using bamboo tubes and a sliding board. Whenever I cooked, I would slide that board up so the smells blew out back instead of into the courtyard. I tested it out while rendering some pork fat. A cold draft flowed through the holes, and the cooking smell faded noticeably. Not perfect, but it definitely helped. Good enough. 30 minutes later, had amazing braised chicken, pork with potatoes, spicy sour cabbage, and fresh white flour buns ready on the table. I headed to the middle court to intercept the kids before they went to Harry's place out of sheer habit. Now watch this. I caught them just in time, walking in from the front gate. We are going home tonight. The house is fully finished. Tommy took off running fast. By the time I caught up with Daniel and Lily, Tommy was already shouting inside, "It is beautiful. Our new home is so beautiful." Lily looked around with wide eyes, then glanced up at me. "Is this really our house?" "Of course it is. Don't you like it?" She beamed. I gave them the grand tour, checking upstairs, downstairs, every room. When the tour ended, Daniel still could not believe it. We each get our own bedroom now. You do. Now let's eat. Tommy, grab Harry's family. Tommy sprinted off and quickly returned with Harry, Peter, and Rain. I apologized to Harry for not mentioning we had finally moved back. He just waved it away and looked around, totally impressed. He had seen wealthy homes before, but he never saw a simple 3-room wing totally transformed like this. Even Peter and Rain stared with pure envy. Harry predicted the whole neighborhood would start copying this design soon. He was completely right. You and I both know how it is. For families with too many kids, a loft was way cheaper than buying a new house. Down the street, Derek's mom was already scheming. She told Derek she toured my house with the other ladies and finally found the answer to their family space problems. Derek panicked at first, assuming she had picked a fight with me. She smacked his head, yelling she was not crazy. She definitely remembered what happened to the last family who dared to mess with us. No, she simply wanted to renovate their rooms the exact same way. Derek relaxed immediately. As long as his mother avoided trouble with my family, he did not care. If you want to renovate, go ahead. I have zero objections. That evening, I sent Harry's family back home cleaned up and told the kids to study. Then I finally laid down in my own fresh room with my books. I lost several days of studying during the big renovation and needed to catch up fast. The mechanical design book was a third done. Maybe 10 more days to finish if I focused purely on deep understanding, instead of just speed. When I looked up, it was totally dark outside. I got the kids washed and into bed, then climbed under my fresh quilt. The softness was incredible. No cold seeping in, zero shivering. Now this is living, I thought, and fell fast asleep without even trying. The next morning, getting out of bed was impossible. That warm cocoon of fresh bedding almost defeated me entirely, but I heard loud voices outside. Work time was coming fast. I dragged myself up, woke the kids, gave each 2,000 for breakfast, and let them buy their own before school. Then I locked up and headed right to the factory. At the workshop, the apprentices greeted me warmly as always, even though I only taught them for 1 day before William warned me to stop. They really respected me. They would eventually learn from older workers why I stopped, and they understood. I sat at my lathe and got straight to work. Lately, with the Korean War in full swing, the factory orders shifted heavily toward military parts. Most of what landed on my desk now were essential rifle components. Today, I was grinding the rifling inside a gun barrel. Real precision work, where accuracy determined whether a soldier could actually hit his target. If I remembered correctly, the standard military weapon was still the Soviet Mosin Nagant. Trust me, this gets huge. In a couple years, we would get full Soviet technology, making it our very first standard issue rifle. Stick with me here. This is where our guy's hard work pays off big time. While admiring his own barrel crafting, the foreman suddenly pops up beside him. The boss wants him. Director Lewis? For what? The foreman just smiles, hinting it is actually really good news. Feeling curious, our main character powers down his machine and follows right along to the big 2-story main office. Up the stairs they go, knocking gently. Come in. Inside the room, Director Lewis sits opposite a completely unfamiliar and mysterious man. A serious, middle-aged military officer sitting perfectly straight. Both older men turn around to stare, their faces instantly showing absolute, undeniable surprise. They totally knew he was young, but seeing him in person, completely caught off guard. Lewis stands up, giving a warm welcome. The foreman quickly leaves, shutting the heavy door. Lewis asks if those incredible new rifle barrels were his doing. Yes, sir. His stomach drops instantly. Did he completely mess something up? But nope. The officer actually stands up, grinning widely. See, Lewis, I totally knew he was yours. He walks right over, enthusiastically slapping his shoulder. You look super young, kid, but honestly, your craftsmanship is genuinely next level and amazing. Giving a big thumbs up, he leans in close. So, how about it? Ever consider joining my military factory for some real epic work? Thanks, sir, but I am totally fine right here. Yep, this military big shot just seriously offered our boy a brand new job. The perks would be awesome, sure, but he knew the rules there meant zero freedom. Military bases are heavily guarded, and our genius still wants to learn. Moving there would totally restrict his awesome potential. Louis panics and jumps right in. You cannot steal my best worker. We just trained him. Officer Zhang completely ignores Louis and just smiles. A loyal kid. I really respect that. Then he confidently turns back to Louis. Relax, he already declined. But Zhang pushes harder. With talent this epic, you better treat him like an absolute king. Louis doesn't even hesitate. Hey, I was already planning to boost his pay after he gained a little more experience. But since he is clearly exceptional, his salary hits 800,000 next month. Zhang nods, fully approving. Now, that is how you reward talent. He stands there totally stunned, originally thinking he was getting fired for a mistake. Instead, two incredibly powerful men are basically fighting over him right now. Hey, a massive raise is a huge win. No complaints here. He cheerfully excuses himself to get back to the grind. Louis waves him away, and he happily escapes the room. Now pay close attention. Here is the real twist. Zhang did not visit this factory just to poach our hero. He had a secret mission to set up a brand new department here, a security division. Louis instantly understands the play. Officially, it is about keeping the machines super safe and guarding against any crazy enemy attacks. But honestly, it is pure surveillance. The higher-ups want eyes inside every private factory. This security squad will be entirely military veterans, answering directly to the police and the army, completely ignoring Louis and his commands. He sits down, weighing his wild options. Saying no could bring some seriously unpredictable drama. Accepting means losing his power. But he is a survivor. He made it through warlords and major conflicts simply by knowing when to fold. Fine, he agrees. When do they start? 3 days. They shake on it, and Zhang bounces. Louis sits alone in silence, just staring at the ceiling. He realizes his days of ruling this factory like an absolute boss are over. We all saw it coming, right? Just not this incredibly fast. Meanwhile, leaving the office, our guy finds the foreman squatting and smoking, looking totally hilarious. He lets out a quick cough to surprise him. The guy spins around ready to shout, sees him, and gets super curious. Any good news? Next month, my pay hits 800,000. The foreman just casually cheers for him. His own salary is similar, so he is totally unfazed. They walk back to the busy workshop, joking happily about how his crazy prediction actually came true. By lunchtime, William rushes over, looking worried. He heard from Frank about the big scary boss meeting. Whispering about the massive raise, William opens his eyes wide. 800,000. That is double my pay. He is not even jealous, just completely amazed. Becoming a senior machinist 2 weeks ago, and boom, an epic raise just like that. But he makes William promise to keep it secret. Neighbors gossip too much, and he planned this perfectly. Before, nobody bothered him because his 70,000 salary could barely feed his family and pay for school, totally under the radar. 800,000 totally flips the script. Poor folks get insanely jealous when someone else wins. If word escaped, neighbors would absolutely swarm him for loans and cause pointless drama. His smart plan? Go on an epic family shopping spree immediately. Upgraded furniture, nice clothes, home renovations. That way, by late 52, he can honestly claim that all his new money is completely gone. So what do you and I think? Bringing his grandparents over is the ultimate backup. Stick with me. Those two crafty old guys handled our nosy neighbors way better than I could. I preferred focusing my energy on studying instead of annoying courtyard politics. William thankfully promised to stay quiet. We grabbed our lunchboxes and ate. That afternoon I returned to grinding those rifle barrels. I absolutely didn't rush or cut any corners. Every single tiny fraction of precision meant our brave soldiers on the Korean front could hit their targets flawlessly. I couldn't just abandon my younger siblings to join the army. So, this was my own epic way of contributing to victory. Near the shift's end, I crushed my quota, stretched my aching wrists, and grabbed my books to squeeze in some fast reading before the final bell. After grinding away, William and I said our goodbyes, and I walked home completely alone. Turning a corner near the courtyard, I totally froze. Harry was standing at an alley entrance, secretly whispering with an attractive, perfectly dressed woman in her 30s. The White Widow, I actually knew all about her from my past life stories. She was the exact woman destined to eventually lure Harry away from his kids. In the original show, viewers claimed Harry left to escape political classification drama, but that never made sense. Harry personally told me his family had literally been just servants and cooks for several generations. Nothing controversial at all, meaning someone definitely manipulated poor Harry into running away. And from what I remembered of those stories, the absolute prime suspect was the old lady in the back court. She always appeared super sweet and completely harmless, gently patting kids on the head and smiling warmly at everyone. I never actually caught her doing anything wrong, but I strictly warned my siblings to keep their distance. Anyway, you truly never know what hides behind kindness. I casually pretended I hadn't seen a thing and kept walking, mind totally racing. I planned to warn Harry soon. Pay attention here, I really didn't expect him to meet the White Widow so soon. Time was definitely up. Stepping into our courtyard that evening, something felt completely wrong. The front court was a ghost town. I headed toward the middle court, finding everyone packed together, buzzing with absolute chaos. I nudged old Wong, a middle court neighbor. What on earth is happening? They are classifying everyone's family background, he muttered, blowing out thick smoke. Right in the center stood three intimidating figures wearing military uniforms. A sharp woman in her 30s, alongside two younger soldiers, a man and a woman. The leader explained the rules loudly. No hiding your family roots. Lie about it, and you'll face severe consequences. She quickly divided the labor, one soldier for the front, one for the middle, while she personally took charge of the back court. I followed her to the back. Zero rush on my end. I grabbed a stool, sat outside my door, and casually read my mechanical design book while the others panicked and lined up. Thanks to my past life memories, I knew exactly what this meant. Back in 1950, the government classified rural homes into landlords, rich, middle, or poor peasants. Now, it was the city's turn. Urban families got sorted into workers, small craftsmen, wealthy merchants, or capitalists. The back court had way fewer families, so things moved fast. Half an hour later, everyone finished up, and I casually approached. Director Jean, the commanding officer, handed me an official category sheet. I read through it, waiting until she finished the last family. So, what category does your household fall under? I'm a worker at the huge steel rolling mill. My family is totally working class. She looked visibly surprised. You're awfully young to work at a factory. I took over my father's job after he left us. My voice dropped. Catching the shift, she gently apologized. I am so sorry. I truly didn't mean to bring up painful memories. Your father wouldn't want you sad. I smiled it off smoothly. It's been a long while. I am totally used to it. She quickly registered my whole family, me, Daniel, Tommy, and Lily, under worker class. Then she packed up. Her two soldiers arrived from the front and middle courts, reporting they had finished too. The three of them quickly left together. I went inside, cooked up dinner, fed the kids, and sent them to finish homework. Then I sat outside with my book once again. I heard they did the classification today. Harry suddenly appeared beside me. You missed it. You gotta register tomorrow. He sat down, handing me a smoke. I lit it. Now, I know what you're thinking. This was my absolute perfect moment to make a move. I saw you today on my way home near that alley. He paused for a quick beat, then casually shrugged. So you saw me. So what? Tell me about her. Uncle Harry, are you actually serious about this woman? He exhaled slowly. Simple arrangement. I like her face. She likes my paycheck. Then why not just marry her? Bring her home the proper way. I felt so genuinely confused. In my past memories, Harry eventually abandons Peter and Rain to follow the White Widow all the way to baiting. If he truly liked her, why not make it official? Instead of ruining everyone's lives, just marry her? Huh, it's not simple. Harry flicked his ash. My wife left us 5 years ago. Trust me, you'll want to see what comes next. I have raised Peter and Rain completely alone, playing both parents. I just wanted someone who cared. But this lady? Why her? She refuses to stay. She expects me to follow her to baiting. He sighed heavily. I have 2 kids. How could I leave? So I kept her waiting, hoping she would finally agree to stay. His eyes shined with absolute pride. He really thought he was smart. Stick with me, because this timeline is completely blowing my mind. In the original plot, Harry was the one lured away, but right here, he actually believed he was playing the mysterious White Widow. I needed to give him a reality check. What if she gets impatient and tells the authorities you totally forced yourself on her? Harry completely froze, physically shivering in fear. He never even imagined that risk. Back in this era, that accusation meant game over. She would never do that. Uncle Harry, if forced to choose between you and her own child back in Baiting, who wins out? He had zero answers. What if she uses that exact threat to control you? He sat totally speechless. All confidence washed from his face. I advised him to just stay calm, keep quiet, and communicate honestly. Discover what she actually wanted. If needed, hand over some cash and send her home peacefully. A perfect break. He slapped his knee. Exactly. I will talk to her right now. He rushed away. I just sighed. The guy had single ladies available, but chased an out-of-town widow instead. I called the kids for their washing and tucked them in. Read under my 15-watt bulb until sleep hit. The next few days, totally blurred. Our factory rifle barrels amazed the military brass so much that extra orders from other facilities got sent straight to our team. My workload instantly doubled, then tripled. I was grinding barrels until 9 or 10 every single night, having zero time for reading. Lewis upgraded our cafeteria. More meat, 2 shifts to keep every worker fed and super productive. I asked Harry to babysit my siblings after school. I lacked the time to even ask about his White Widow situation. Meanwhile, I arrived home, finding our courtyard empty. Turns out, the army sent inspectors to classify every single family background right there. Director Zhang led the entire process. When my turn arrived, she simply handed me the category sheet. Urban families had 4 classes: workers, tiny craftsmen, merchants, or massive capitalists. I work at the steel mill. We are working class, I said. She looked surprised. I explained inheriting my dad's job after he passed away. Her expression instantly softened, and she sincerely apologized for bringing it up. I said it was fine, providing all 4 names. Mine, Daniel, Tommy, and Lily. Working class, officially registered. Now pay attention here. 3 days later, military trucks rolled up to our gate. Soldiers hopped out with rifles, forming a strict line. The vibe turned cold. Lewis stood at the entrance with other leaders, his tight smile faltering. A strict officer named Samuel stepped right forward, saluting, reporting for duty at the steel mill. Lewis activated his businessman charm. Welcome. We have been expecting you guys. Your offices are ready. Should we get you settled? Or would you prefer eating? Samuel chose settling in first. Superiors ordered him to cooperate with patriotic capitalists, avoiding conflict. So their handshake was super firm, yet polite. 2 guys understanding exactly what the other thought, but neither daring to say it out loud. Lewis flashed a warm smile, having his assistant show Samuel and the security squad to their new factory offices. While the soldiers marched perfectly inside, the trucks left. Lewis watched them disappear, his fake smile slowly vanishing. A manager leaned in, whispering softly, "Why put a security division inside our factory?" Lewis shot him a warning glare. "Some questions remain unasked. Just work." Meanwhile, I stayed buried in grinding. You and I both know grinding changes a person. 3 days of overtime unlocked something I barely understood. My hands basically moved on autopilot, grinding rifle barrels with crazy speed and perfect precision. That was completely impossible just a week prior. But the huge change happened inside my brain. A virtual workspace formed in my mind. While my hands ran the physical lathe, my brain assembled a whole Mosin Nagant rifle right from scratch. Every single component appearing with exact dimensions, specs, and materials labeled. This mental blueprint outclassed the original design, bringing tighter tolerances and way more improved precision. I cracked the pattern over 3 days. Pushing past my absolute limits and doing overtime with pure focus literally spawned new knowledge in my brain, acting as a reward for my grind. It felt like carrying a hidden system powered purely by the concept that hard work truly pays. 0 interfaces, no menus, 0 notifications, just an epic flow of deep mechanical understanding. 3 days ago, my skills hit 1955 level 7. Trust me, you and I aren't ready. Stick with me here, because I was literally right on the edge of reaching an absolutely legendary tier. A totally legendary craftsman who people joked could build a nuclear bomb manually. But my mind was completely fried. Every single piece demanded absolute focus. 3 intense days had my nerves completely shattered. I needed rest. When the lunch bell rang, I finished the last piece, grabbed my lunchbox, and shut down. William and I headed out together. "You are working too hard," he said. "Take a break." The cafeteria was packed. Every single window had a massive line of exhausted workers. That completely underfed look was, unfortunately, totally normal for this rough era. During this overtime rush, Louis actually added daily meat dishes to the menu, which was incredibly rare. Meat usually appeared maybe 3 times a month. That extra protein was exactly why nobody minded the long hours. A guy from workshop spotted me and tried to wave me directly to the front. Others joined in, insisting I cut the entire line. I just shook my head and told them William and I would wait our turn like everyone else. We lined up at the back. Workers from other lines noticed the commotion and began whispering, "Who is that guy?" "That is Master Jack, the youngest senior machinist in the whole factory. That guy is his master." Someone else chimed in about how I once spent an entire morning teaching young apprentices before stopping for mysterious reasons, and how those workers still deeply remembered my kindness. I know what you are thinking. This praise felt completely awkward. William smiled quietly. "They really do respect you. The other senior machinists are basically hired guns. They only show up when Louis needs them and totally disappear otherwise. You are different. You actually climbed the ranks. You help people. That matters." "It is because you taught me well, master," I said. He laughed and shook his head, but I could easily tell he was incredibly proud. Left speechless by the compliment, he just slapped my shoulder. "You always know what to say, kid." The cafeteria line moved extremely fast. When we reached the window, the lady behind the counter totally lit up seeing me. She gave William a huge portion, turning to me with extra warmth. I ordered exactly the same thing as William, 2 large buns, 1 meat dish, 1 soup, and paid like everybody else. At our table, William and I stared at our massively overflowing boxes and laughed. "Even the lunch ladies favor you. Your master is just riding your coattails." I had no clue how to respond to that. Nearly 3 years in this era, and I still could not match the easy banter of these locals. My life had been incredibly small. As a child, the city was simply too dangerous to explore. Then the Japanese arrived, forcing my father into the factory, keeping us completely half-starved. After they left, my father's health completely collapsed from endless hard labor. He passed away before liberation. That shock actually triggered my past life memories. A year later, I took his position at the mill. William watched me totally fumble for words and burst out laughing. "Your skills are absolutely top tier, but that tongue of yours still needs training." Then his expression turned completely serious. "There is something else. Your education level needs work. I know you cannot attend regular school because of your siblings, but the government is running night schools and literacy classes now. You could absolutely attend the evening sessions. The way things are going, they will demand way more education from workers soon. If you score a diploma from night school, your entire path completely opens up." Night school. You and I know that changes everything. I was totally stunned. I thought those programs would not start until 1953. Apparently I was wrong. "I will go," I told him. He was completely right. My actual knowledge was way beyond night school level. I could probably teach the classes, but absolutely nobody knew that. And if I wanted to contribute something meaningful to this country's future, I absolutely needed official credentials. After lunch, I went back to grinding parts, but my mind kept turning over William's words. His incredible foresight surprised me. Anyone who survived that old society and came out sharp on the other side was absolutely never simple. When the shift ended, I said goodbye to William and went straight to the address he gave me. I found the building and immediately looked up at the giant sign. Chinese People's University. I stood there with my mouth open. This was definitely not just any night school. This was the predecessor of one of the most important universities in the country, the exact institution that would become the cradle of China's future leadership. I had heard friends joke in my previous life that the first night school was built specifically to educate government cadres. Trust me, you and I just discovered the truth. A young soldier guarding the entrance walked over. What are you doing standing there? Is this the night school? Are workers allowed to study here? He looked me up and down. You are here to learn? I nodded, still feeling dazed. What is going on here? Another loud voice called out, suddenly interrupting us at the gate. Stick with me, you're about to watch a crazy underdog story. I turned, spotting a 40-something guy in a gray suit and teacher badge. Sharp, scholarly eyes. The guard saluted. Director Yin, this guy wants to enroll. Yin looked me up and down. You a factory worker? Yes, sir. I'm from the Liu steel rolling mill. My master said workers could study here. He nodded slowly. Great. The working class is our nation's backbone. But these courses get pretty tough. What's your education level? I've actually never been to school, I confessed. Saying it out loud in front of this guy made me feel way smaller than it should have. But my master taught me a lot. His eyebrow twitched. Zero schooling? What's your factory rank then? Apprentice? Junior worker? I'm a senior machinist, I replied. He just stared. I've seen plenty of senior machinists, but never a teenager. I could easily tell he didn't buy my story, but he really liked that I wanted to learn. He waved me through the gate. Walking inside, he told me I was incredibly lucky with my timing. Just 3 days ago, brand new orders allowed working professionals to start attending night school. Anyone who passed the yearly exams would receive a matching diploma. The program hadn't even been announced publicly yet. Where did you hear about this? He asked. I just laughed awkwardly. I had absolutely no idea William's intel was that fresh. He led me into an office where another teacher sat writing, a very stern-looking man in the exact same style of suit. Director Yin introduced me. Brought you a new student, Charlie. Take a wild guess at his level. Teacher Charlie glanced at me. 16, 17 years old. Junior worker at best. Nope, he claims he's a senior machinist. Now watch closely, neither of them bought it. Senior machinists were absolute factory treasures. And a teenage one. That was just completely unheard of. Charlie immediately got down to business. Night school works like this. No time limits on studying, but only one exam per year. Pass and you get the diploma for that level. Fail and you get absolutely nothing. I nodded. Now, tuition. Elementary to middle costs 500,000. Middle to high is 700,000. Over $1 million total. Can you handle that? Yes, I said instantly. Then I added, but I'm not totally sure where my actual knowledge level stands. I'd really like to find out. Charlie raised an eyebrow. Director Yin cut in, sounding annoyed. Yin jumped in, clearly annoyed. Kid, you just said you never went to school. Now, you're trying to test out, you bluffing? I felt a huge flash of frustration. I'm not bluffing. Test me right now. That's the fastest way to find out. I wasn't about to waste years in night school when I already had the knowledge. I needed the diploma, not the education. If I didn't show my real ability right now, I'd be stuck here for longer than necessary. Director Yin's eyes narrowed. Fine. You want to prove yourself? Let's see it. He turned to Charlie. Got any elementary exams? Let's start there and see what this kid is really made of. Are you sure about this? Teacher? Charlie asked. I'm totally sure. He opened a drawer and pulled out 2 exam papers. Last year's upper elementary finals from a local school. You have 30 minutes. I didn't say a word, just grabbed a chair, picked up a pencil, and started writing. Honestly, with the university education from my past life, these elementary problems were an absolute joke. Some historical facts were different from what I remembered, but as long as politics and Russian weren't involved, I had this in the bag. Between my past knowledge and years helping my little sibling study, this was a total breeze. You and I both know how this goes. They stood watching over my shoulder, exchanging shocked glances. After a few minutes, they started nodding. I crushed both papers in under 20 minutes. Before I could even hand them in, Charlie snatched them up. He scanned through the answers quickly, then looked at me with deep suspicion. You said you never went to school. So why is your score over 90%? I really haven't been to school, I replied. But my master taught me a lot, and I study on my own to help my siblings with homework. Both men stared at me with hard, searching eyes. I could easily tell exactly what they were thinking. In this city, enemy agents were still hiding everywhere. And an educated kid acing tests? Huge red flag. If you don't believe me, look into it. Check with the factory. Check with my neighbors. They exchanged a look and seemed to reach some silent agreement. Charlie finally relaxed. Fine, you're officially at elementary grad level. Wanna take the middle school exam right now? Not tonight. I need to get home and cook for my family. It had already been nearly an hour since my factory shift ended. My siblings would be hungry. Director Yin nodded reluctantly. Come back tomorrow. We'll test your middle school level then, so we know exactly which class to put you in. I thanked them both and headed out. And that's where we leave it. Walking out, I knew they were absolutely running a background check. About to discover I really was a 17-year-old senior machinist with zero formal education. Stick with me here. We are stumbling onto something totally unusual. I sprinted through the courtyard, completely ignoring the neighbors trying to chat with me. Pushing my door open, I saw the table was already set. Hot buns, pork, potatoes, and spicy cabbage. Uncle Harry definitely cooked for the kids. But get this, nobody touched a single bite. My 3 siblings just sat there staring at the food. Why are you waiting? Tommy looked miserable. Daniel refused to eat without you here. Daniel sat up straight, completely serious. You lead this family. We do not eat until you get home. Little Lily nodded firmly. Her tiny face looked totally determined. Tommy rubbed his loudly growling stomach. But I am so hungry. Honestly, that gave me serious feels. I know you want to be good, but you kids are growing. No skipping meals. From now on, if I run late, eat without me. That is a direct order. Daniel totally disagreed, but stayed quiet. I handed out the buns and scooped food right onto their plates. They finally started eating. Tommy looked up while chewing. Harry really cannot cook as well as you. I lightly tapped his head with my chopsticks. Just eat your food and quiet down. I sat there feeling super grateful for Harry. The guy cooked for my siblings completely unprompted, leaving a hot meal waiting for me. Whatever happened next, I definitely owed him a massive favor. I made a mental note. If things actually worked out, I would definitely make sure to protect Peter and Rain in the future. After eating, Daniel completely shocked me by offering to wash all the dirty dishes. I almost stopped him, but quickly changed my mind. He was 12, so it was time to help. I sent Tommy and Lily to study and grabbed a book. March was turning into April. The courtyard tree sprouted fresh buds, but my mind kept heavily drifting right back to Harry's tense situation. So I gave up reading. You are going to want to hear this. I found Harry smoking alone and thanked him for feeding my kids. Do not mention it, he smiled, tossing me a cigarette. A Decky, seriously expensive brand, $3,500 a pack. Since when do you smoke the fancy stuff? He just laughed. A rich client gave them to me after I catered a banquet yesterday. I raised an eyebrow. Uncle Harry, do not act poor. I know exactly what you charge for those private banquets. $50,000 a table. You earn way more from side hustles than your regular factory salary. He chuckled, caught me. Force of habit. Then I asked the real question. So what happened with the White Widow? He took a slow drag. It is totally handled. I paid her. She is going back to baiting. I am staying with Peter and Rain. I exhaled with massive relief. 0 loose ends. None. You really saved my life, kid. After I spoke to her that day, she confessed something huge. The exact same day you warned me, someone approached her with a sneaky plan. A twisted way to force me out of the city with her. If you had not given me that tip, I would have walked right into it. Did she say who? Harry shook his head. She had no idea, and from her vague description, Willie could not figure it out either. That totally confirmed my suspicion. Whoever plotted this used a secret middleman, staying smart enough to never reveal their own actual face to her. I had my guesses. We both probably suspect the exact same person, right? But without proof. I stayed quiet. We chatted, then I headed home satisfied. With the White Widow finally gone, Peter and Rain's future was officially secure. Would the rest of this courtyard drama still unfold exactly like I remembered from the TV show? Honestly, who knows? But that was not my problem anymore. I helped Harry because he helped my family. Debt fully paid. The very next evening, I headed straight to night school for my big middle school exam. The security guard actually recognized me and waved me inside. I knocked on Charlie's door. Come in. Inside, 3 men were eating and drinking right around a desk. Charlie, Director Yun, and some older guy I did not know. Their table was loaded with pork meat, chili, pork, and 2 bottles of Zifeng liquor. Staring closely at that old man, something instantly clicked. Unless I was totally mistaken, this guy was someone incredibly important. A man named Yin, destined to become a massive legend in the coming years. So, is this the young senior machinist you were hyping up? The old man asked, casually chewing his food. That is him, Principal, Director Yin firmly confirmed. Absolutely unbelievable, right? We checked his background last night. This kid is the real deal. The principal slowly nodded. Genuinely talented, then. Charlie offered me some food. I politely turned it down. I would rather just focus and take the test. He looked super pleased. I was not trying to kiss up to them. He grabbed exam papers from a drawer. Literal middle school finals from the highly prestigious beta-affiliated school. These are far from easy, he warned, with a deeply meaningful look. Score high, and you might get a reward. Then all three went straight back to feasting, eating me at a side table. My stomach aggressively growled as the heavy smell of hot pork and strong liquor completely tortured me. I grabbed that pencil and started writing down the answers as fast as humanly possible. The faster I finished, the sooner I could eat. You and I both know this was the absolute worst testing environment imaginable. Starving, surrounded by amazing food I could not touch, and 3 teachers way more invested in their alcohol than my actual exam. Let's dive in. I ignored my starving stomach while their roasted pork and drinks smelled absolutely amazing. Middle school questions were definitely tougher than elementary, but honestly, pretty easy. Just like my past life's primary school, math, science, and languages were a total breeze. Geography and history, I just pulled those right from memory. As for politics, using the perfect ideological buzzwords was my secret weapon. But then came Russian. I just stared at it. I learned English before, so Russian was a giant mystery. I knew absolutely 0 words. Major regret hit me hard. I really should have studied it, since Russian was basically the second language around here right now. Oh, well, nothing I could do. I totally refused to just guess randomly, so that entire Russian section stayed completely blank. I confidently stood up to submit my test. Suddenly, I noticed all 3 men hovering right behind my back. Charlie grabbed the stack, but the old principal quickly snatched my Russian test before anyone else even had a chance. Why is this completely blank? Not one word. I proudly told him I never studied it, and faking it was lame. He gave a smirk. Guess you are not the genius they bragged about. My cheeks instantly burned. If this floor was not solid concrete, I would have dug a hole and hid. Thankfully, Charlie saved the day, suggesting they grade everything else. Charlie and Director Yin divided the exams, grading them right then. Meanwhile, the old principal sat across the table, mysteriously studying my face very closely. Later, I found out about last night's crazy events. Those 2 had secretly visited him after I left. They asked him to investigate my background using his big connections, so he made some calls. When the report finally arrived, all 3 men were absolutely stunned. A wild worker who leaped from apprentice to top machinist in 18 months. Now teaching himself mechanical design and electrical engineering on the side. They never saw anyone like it. Do you play chess? The principal suddenly asked. I replied, not really. He pulled a cool Chinese chess set from his drawer, setting up the board. We played a fun match. I held my ground initially, but this old man was seriously on another level. I slowed way down, completely stuck staring at the board. He did not rush me at all, just calmly watching me think. Watch closely. Out of nowhere, he asked if I wanted to attend university. That wild question hit me hard. Universities stopped all normal admissions ages ago. The big national entrance exam would not restart until October 1952, over a year away. Even then, they only accepted high school graduates. I possessed absolutely 0 diplomas of any kind. If someone else asked, I would totally ignore it. But my past life memory recognized this exact guy. He was destined to become an incredibly powerful figure in the future. I honestly answered, yes, I want to go, but schools are not enrolling, and I lack a diploma. Is this possible? I knew the giant gap between a factory worker and a college grad was not just about money. It was about total legitimacy. If a regular worker randomly produced advanced tech knowledge, everyone would get highly suspicious. But with a fancy university degree, those exact same achievements would just make me an absolute genius. I understood that invisible barrier between both worlds. Hearing this, the old principal flashed a very mysterious smile. I know what you are thinking, right? He just said it could happen. Then he quickly called the guys back to check my grades. Charlie handed over the graded tests. The wise old man flipped through, smiling brightly. Not bad at all. I felt so confused. I left the entire Russian part blank. How was this? Good? He just laughed happily. These are elite middle school exams. Even top technical college students cannot score this incredibly high, and you have literally never stepped inside a real classroom. Besides the blank Russian, you are truly amazing. I finally exhaled with deep relief. Of course, I scored high. Being a previous college grad, absolutely. Crushing a basic middle school exam was completely expected, but Russian language was a genuine blind spot. I studied English before, but literally zero Russian words. Then the principal waved Charlie and the director out. I need to speak with him alone, he ordered. The two exchanged knowing, dramatic glances before leaving and shutting the heavy door. The old man stared intently. You are young, wildly talented, and very hungry for knowledge. Would you be interested in studying Russian with me? I completely froze. This was way bigger than just learning words. This meant bonding with a guy destined for extreme power. Securing him as my mentor would literally reshape my entire future. I would be honored, I said. But what about my factory job? He casually waved it away. Just come after work every day. Massive relief flooded my chest. I quickly stood, bowing deeply. Thank you so much, teacher. He handed over his own personal notebook for Russian, packed with years of cool methods, special techniques, and awesome shortcuts. Perfectly written. Study this at home, and bring questions. I quickly asked about night school. Oh, you totally passed. You are hitting the high school class. I thanked him and ran home. Trust me, a wild journey is just beginning. Alright, let's dive right in. I worried the kids were starving, but found leftover buns and veggies waiting. They had totally fed themselves. I sat with my food in that notebook, but the notes hooked me so hard, I actually forgot to eat. The Russian learning methods inside, absolutely brilliant, systematic, and surprisingly tough. 2 whole hours just vanished before Daniel's voice finally grounded me. After cleaning up, I realized the absolute mountain of work ahead of me. Honestly, Russian would be just as hard as English was back then, maybe even harder. But with notes this epic, I actually had a real chance. Suddenly, a knock interrupted my focus. Harry and Peter were standing right outside. Just checking on you, Harry said. Peter immediately blurted out that his dad was super worried, instantly earning a quick smack on the head. I invited them inside, casually explaining I had just enrolled in night school for extra education. I have to go every single night after work, meaning I cannot always cook. Could you please watch over the kids' dinners whenever I am running late? Harry nodded without a second of hesitation. I explained everything. There was 0 point hiding things when asking for his help. His concern for our family was totally genuine, and that true warmth felt absolutely amazing. Whatever massive debt I owed this incredible guy swore to repay it tenfold. Ah, so that completely explains why you are always rushing off. Night school. Harry completely relaxed after understanding the situation. Then he genuinely suggested having my siblings eat dinner over at his place every night. It saves me the trip over here, he said. I instantly refused. Now watch this dynamic closely. His family had enough food, but having him cook at my place was already way too incredibly generous. Peter quickly chimed in, offering to cook if his dad refused. Harry immediately smacked the back of the poor kid's head. Nobody asked you, idiot. Why do you keep hitting me? You will literally make me dumb. I will hit you whenever I want. What are you gonna do? Harry aggressively grabbed Peter by his collar, practically shoving him right out the door. Go home and sleep right now. I cannot stand looking at you. Peter furiously stomped away, totally ignoring my calls. I just turned back to face Harry. Was all that really necessary? Harry deeply sighed, lit a cigarette, and took a huge, stressed drag. What did I do to deserve that, boy? Kid cannot tell a lesson from an insult. I gently reminded him Peter was still young, and would naturally mature. Harry sadly shook his head. He will marry soon, and there is no woman around the house to teach him all the things a father simply cannot. I saw my golden opportunity. Are you seriously planning to stay single forever? He went completely quiet. Even after that absolutely insane widow situation, his voice gave the tragic truth away. The guy was intensely lonely. I know what you are thinking. Late-night loneliness is dangerous. One bad widow was gone, but another could always easily swoop in and take her place. Why not try a matchmaker? I suggested. Easy for you to say. I have 2 kids. What decent woman actually wants to handle that massive baggage? And my absolute biggest nightmare is finding someone who treats my kids terribly. Being constantly trapped between a brand new wife and your own children is absolute torture for any man. I completely nodded. He had a solid point. Stepmothers are super risky, and splitting his okay salary for ways looked way less appealing to any bride. What about finding a nice girl from the countryside? Harry stared at me like I was completely crazy. The countryside is absolutely thriving right now. Land reform just happened. Every single farmer is getting their own land for the first time. An extra family member literally means getting a whole extra acre. Why would any farmer let their daughter marry a city guy and lose precious land? Finding country girls is way harder than city ones today. I felt so totally dumb. He was right. Rural land reform basically changed absolutely everything. Rural families were aggressively hoarding their members. I had zero counter-arguments left. I guess the matchmaker really is still your absolute best option. Harry crushed his cigarette and finally stood up. I will figure it out. Get some sleep. At the door, he paused. Same plan tomorrow? I will cook for the kids. If it is no trouble, I really need your help for a few more days. He casually waved it off, vanishing toward the middle courtyard. Watching him walk away, my profound respect for this guy grew even deeper. Then I safely locked up and checked upstairs. The kids were fast asleep. Lying in bed, my mind immediately wandered to the countryside, land reform, and my own precious family. My beloved grandparents lived out alongside my second uncle, his wife, and their 5 energetic kids. With the new land distribution, I hoped they got a great share. I calculated the time. Almost half a year had passed since my last visit. My grandparents' kind, gently wrinkled faces vividly flashed through my memories, warming my soul. They always treated me better than anyone ever did. I deeply miss them. Maybe it is time to go visit. With that super cozy thought warming my heart, I finally drifted asleep. Wake up, big brother. I snapped my eyes open, confused. Daniel was calling. Usually, I was the one forcefully waking everyone up. His voice echoed again. Breakfast is ready. I quickly threw on my clothes and rushed out. Trust me, you will love this family. Daniel carried dishes from the kitchen, while the others sat half asleep. Let's dive in. I looked outside, barely dawn. Why didn't he wake me? Why is he cooking? Daniel set the food down, looking completely serious. He heard me talking with Uncle Harry last night. I'm busy with work and night school. He's finally old enough to help out. From now on, he wants to handle the cooking. My heart just melted. I ruffled his hair before he could even protest, and sat. The mixed flour buns were super lumpy and uneven. The corn porridge smelled totally burnt. Our only side dish was some plain pickled vegetables. I picked up a bun and took a bite. It was sour, lacking baking soda, but honestly, it was the absolute best thing I've tasted. Not bad at all, I told him. Just needs more alkaline next time. His face completely lit up. Then he tried his own bun, and his expression instantly crumbled. He nervously watched Tommy and Lily poking at theirs, then stared right at me happily, wolfing mine down. His eyes filled with sad tears. He apologized for wasting flour. I walked over and gently rubbed his head again. You didn't waste anything. This is way better than my cooking. I glared at the younger two. Eat up. Tommy took a bite and yelped about the soreness. One sharp look and he swallowed. Lily wrinkled her cute nose, but ate quietly, washing it down with porridge without complaining. Daniel watched us all eating and quickly wiped his eyes. A sweet little smile appeared. We finished every single bite. After the kids left for school, I knocked on Harry's door, grinning until my face hurt. Let me guess, your little brother cooked today, Harry joked before I even spoke. How did you know? Because you look like someone who won the lottery. Your massive smile is practically touching your ears right now. I asked him to supervise Daniel's cooking that evening instead of doing it himself. We need to let the boy learn by doing. Harry cheerfully agreed and shooed me off to work. On the walk to the factory, curious co-workers kept asking why I was so happy. I told them my 12-year-old brother made breakfast. One guy sighed in envy. My son is 15 and ignores a fallen bottle of soy sauce. Now, pay close attention here. Near the factory gate, a huge crowd of workers gathered. What is happening? New department? Someone explained it is the new security division doing a head count. All former soldiers, apparently real tough guys. I quickly thought back to that intense uniformed officer I had seen in Lewis's office. So, the heavy security team officially moved in. Looking at those armed men at the gate, I clearly understood what this meant. The government was already laying groundwork. In my previous life's memories, the big push for industry partnerships happens around 1953, but this quiet, methodical infiltration was definitely starting up right now. I watched the factory I grew up in and felt deeply conflicted. From the nation's perspective, consolidating private industry made perfect sense. Concentrate resources, accelerate development. But for patriotic businessmen like Lewis, it meant losing everything they built. Then again, for regular workers like me, public ownership meant better treatment, awesome benefits, and solid job security. The iron rice bowl wasn't just a saying. I stopped overthinking. This issue was way above my pay grade. I filed through the gate with everyone else, nodded at the security guards, and headed to my lathe, still smiling about those wonderful sour buns. At the factory gate, intense soldiers with rifles were checking workers against a list, calling names one by one. You feel the tension too, right? A stern-faced officer stood there, his piercing gaze cutting right through people. Frank went through ahead of me without any trouble. Then my name was called. Jack Joe. Here, I confidently stepped forward, but before the guard could wave me through, that intimidating officer spoke up. Wait. Every single worker turned their head. The officer smiled, explaining he heard about the factory's youngest senior machinist and just wanted to chat. People relaxed. Some even looked super proud that a military man knew about me. I didn't buy his polite explanation for a second, but I had absolutely nothing to hide. We walked into the guardhouse, a tiny room with a bed, chairs, and a table. He introduced himself as Samuel Song, the brand new head of the security division. He offered me a Dakin cigarette and got straight to pleasantries about wanting to be friends. I gladly accepted the smoke and played totally humble. You are too kind, Captain Song. I am just a worker. It is my honor that someone of your rank wants to talk. I kept my tone super warm, but said absolutely nothing that could be taken as picking a side. I already figured out what he actually wanted. The security division just arrived. Their sudden presence would completely unsettle the workers. They needed someone respected on the factory floor to keep things calm and build a network, countering Lewis's power structure, paving the way for that eventual massive public and private takeover. Samuel noticed I wasn't biting. I could almost hear him thinking, Will Fox. Right behind that composed smile, he dropped the pretense. I will be direct. Our arrival may cause major unrest among the workers. I want you to step in when needed and keep things completely stable. I just shook my head. And that's where we leave it. I played dumb, claiming I was way too young and had zero real influence with the workers. Let us dive right in. I am just a new senior machinist without apprentices. Trust me, I do not have the influence you are looking for. I let that sink in completely. Then I dropped the solution. If they wanted real authority, my master William Liu was absolutely the perfect choice. Everyone deeply respects him. He holds incredible authority right on the shop floor. This was not just a clever dodge. I genuinely believe this could improve his life. His mechanical skills definitely had limits. He probably would never rise above his current rank. Connecting with government officials meant he could actually transition into management after the huge upcoming merger. Rising to a cadre rank instead of a craftsman was absolutely his best path. Samuel carefully studied my face, completely considering the idea. Slowly, he finally agreed to seriously consider it. He missed his main goal today, but successfully learned I would not oppose them, which was totally a huge win. That was perfectly fine for now. I stood up and headed to my workshop. Nearing workshop 2, the incredibly loud, excited chatter reached me before I even stepped inside. Everyone was totally buzzing about the security division. Stick with me. Things are getting very interesting. Only government places get security teams. The benefits would be amazing. Seeing me, William quickly rushed over, being surprisingly worried. I promised him I was completely fine. Meanwhile, everyone crowded around. Totally amazed a military officer specifically chose to speak with me. Some looked admiring, others deeply envious. I was completely used to it. Without any tasks assigned yet, all the managers were still stuck at the gate managing the security team. The workshop completely paused. I lit a cigarette with William over by the door, avoiding the heavy machines. I asked if he ever considered a big leadership role. He just laughed brightly and smacked my head. You cannot just magically decide to be the boss. He completely brushed it off as a silly joke. I really wanted to reveal my awesome recommendation for him to join the security team, knowing they desperately needed someone with his influence. But I quickly stopped. This might actually be a huge secret government strategy. If he accidentally leaked this unconfirmed idea, it could backfire terribly. Letting Samuel approach him directly was definitely the smartest play here. I just played completely dumb. Over our quick lunch, he asked about night school, and I shared everything. My top exam scores over 90%, totally skipping grades, and confidently jumping straight into the high school class. Hearing that Mr. Ina chose me as his personal Russian student absolutely stunned him. His eyes totally widened in complete and utter shock. Then revealed the mystery that kept bothering me. I explained how the director mentioned the worker enrollment policy had strictly been approved. Just 3 short days prior to my surprising arrival. You and I know the timeline simply does not add up. He totally knew before the public announcement. But how exactly? He flatly refused to explain his secret source. He bluntly insisted I just accept his unbelievable insider tip. Speeding up his pace toward the busy cafeteria, he completely shut me out. I desperately tried asking more, but he refused to speak. He grabbed his food without waiting and headed straight back. I definitely felt a painful pang of regret for pushing, but I was incredibly curious. His family was super simple. A son named Victor, 20, employed at the local post office, and a sweet 16-year-old daughter, Susan, in high school. Absolutely no obvious government connections existed. Yet some incredibly powerful insider mysteriously tipped him off with classified info. This mysterious informant had to be incredibly high-ranking. I certainly had wild guesses, but I simply dropped it. Whatever heavy secrets he surprisingly carried, he was my master and always protected my back. I would gladly listen later, or happily forget I ever asked. After finishing my lunch, I quickly washed my box and went searching for him everywhere. I found him crouching completely alone at our usual smoking spot, coughing heavily. I quietly squatted right beside him. I immediately apologized sincerely, promising to stop asking if it truly upset him. Sighing, he slowly exhaled a heavy cloud of smoke. He confessed it was not about hiding things, but absolute necessity. He received this deeply sensitive, dangerous insider knowledge from a protected source. It crossed serious lines. He shared it purely for my future success, firmly warning me to never, ever seek the secret source. I totally understood. His eyes grew completely distant. We found peace and truly needed to cherish it. Staying completely ignorant is vastly safer. I nodded deeply, knowing his wise words were totally right. We enjoyed incredible safety only because countless brave soldiers were actively battling on the intense Korean front. It reminded me of a famous saying from my previous life. Let that sink in. Peaceful eras are an illusion. Someone else simply carries that crushing burden for us. Putting out his cigarette, he encouraged me to absolutely seize this awesome opportunity. He patted my shoulder affectionately and headed straight back inside. The hurried foreman immediately stormed in with our assignments. Absolutely no funny jokes, just strict tasks before vanishing again. Stick with me. The security arrival completely rattled everyone. He crushed his work quota in 2 hours, spending the rest reading. The deeper he dove into mechanical design, the more he realized he barely knew anything at all. Some of these exact book parts were way beyond his current machining skill level. Totally humbling. His growing confidence deflated, but he was actually extremely grateful. Feeling small just proves exactly how much you really need to chase new knowledge. After work, he headed straight for night school. Near the gate, teacher Charlie called out, pushing a bicycle totally loaded down with heavy grocery bags. He grinned widely, saying this lucky kid actually became the principal student. He honestly expected him to fail. Jack totally knew that. Charlie reminded him about that special reward for doing such an awesome job today. Jack just laughed, scratching his head. He completely missed that the reward meant becoming Principal Yan's student. Charlie revealed the principal rarely took disciples. The entire faculty was absolutely shocked. He actually agreed. Jack found the principal's office on floor 2. The guy was writing when he entered, not even looking up for a solid minute. When he finally noticed, he smiled, tossing him a red booklet, an official middle school diploma. He definitely pulled some major strings for this. High school was on him, but impressing the principal this year meant getting another massive surprise. He already assigned Jack to class 302 upstairs, a high school level room packed with working professionals. For Russian, he would keep self-studying from the notebook, asking questions later. Jack bowed deeply, feeling totally moved. "Thank you, teacher." Waving him off, he sent him to class. The worn room had around 50 seats, but only a dozen workers were actually hanging out there. Jack grabbed a seat. A lean guy in his 20s reached out from behind. "Hey, I am Dennis, working at the local ceramics factory." "Jack, from Lou Steel Rolling Mill." "Why does that name ring a bell?" A 30-something guy wearing gray clothes chimed in from another seat. "Wait, Jack Zhao, the absolute youngest senior machinist at Lou Mill." Dennis literally smacked his forehead. "That is it. You are the famous guy." The older dude introduced himself as Luke, from the railway. "Now pay attention to this detail. The railway was literally the best job around. Back then, snagging train tickets without elite connections was basically an absolutely impossible dream. Plus, railway positions could actually be passed down through generations. The ultimate iron rice bowl. Even his senior machinist status suddenly felt slightly less impressive. Catching their sheer admiration, Luke just smiled incredibly proudly back. "If you guys need tickets, come find me." "Absolutely," Dennis and Jack replied in unison. They were still chatting when heavy footsteps echoed down the hallway. All three instantly straightened up in their seats as the teacher approached. Class officially began. A refined 40-something guy carrying a folder walked right in, wrote Teacher Zhao on the board, and started lecturing straight from the textbook. The content was basic, roughly middle school level for his previous life. He just read everything word for word without real explanation. Jack quickly realized he wouldn't learn much besides Russian here. He brilliantly decided to just grab some high school textbooks and study at home instead. The second the bell rang, he was out of his seat. Dennis called out, hoping they could walk home together. Giving his home address as 95 South Gong Lane, Jack firmly mentioned having errands first. Dennis casually shrugged, quickly running off to catch Luke from the railway instead. He hurried to the principal's office. Principal Yin was still writing at his desk. "Teacher, could I possibly get high school textbooks for home study? Taking care of my siblings makes coming here every single night incredibly difficult for me." Annoyance flickered in his eyes, but hearing about Jack's family struggles, he finally relented. "Fine, but expect a test every single month. Good results mean you stay home. Fail, and you are marching straight back to this class. Deal?" "Deal." Reminded about unpaid tuition, Jack instantly pulled out 700,000 and handed it over. Told to grab the books tomorrow, Jack was shooed out. He rushed home through darkening streets. April nights definitely creep up way faster than winter ones. Passing an alley near the courtyard, he suddenly heard mysterious, muffled voices from inside a small compound. He almost kept walking until two phrases froze him completely. "Organization, Black Cat, enemy agents." His entire body went completely numb with shock. You and I know spies operated in 1951, but stumbling onto them this close to his own home? That is absolutely wild. His first instinct, find the police. But he hesitated. What if he was totally wrong? Staring at the courtyard wall, he jumped and easily pulled himself over. The yard was completely empty. Creeping toward the main house, he firmly pressed his ear against the wall. A raspy voice barked harsh orders. "Black Cat, this is your assignment. You must complete it." Another voice replied, tight with anger. "Impossible. They just established a factory security division. Soldiers are everywhere. This is a one-way trip. Someone inside will help. You just need to smuggle the explosives inside." "No way. I have lost too many people following these crazy orders. 32 started. 10 remain. I'm done." The raspy voice turned cold. "You and I need answers. You and I are jumping right in. Imagine your family held captive. One terrible choice left. Heavy silence. Defeated, the guy asks how many missions until he is free. 3. Then a replacement. Fine. The door opens. A tall dude steps out with his face totally covered, looking completely hopeless. But before his second foot even hits the ground, I blast him from behind with a massive neck chop. Down he goes. I grab the guy, drag him straight to a dark corner, and prop him up. Next, I walk to the front door, perfectly faking the tall guy's deep voice. Who is it? Me. Why are you back? I demand a written promise. Let me go home after 3 jobs. The guy inside pauses for a second, then finally agrees. I hear him scrambling for paper. 1 second later, done. Suddenly, the door flies open and a gun appears, blasting 5 loud shots into the empty frame. Luckily, I am already flattened against the wall, right beneath the broken window. As the hunched shooter steps out, totally confused why nobody dropped, I lunge upward and strike his wrist. He screams loud. The gun hits the dirt. I launch a punch right at his chest. So skilled. He blocks my heavy strike perfectly, leans way back, and kicks hard at my chest. I dodge sideways, form a sharp blade hand, and slash his leg. He spins out, pulls back, and immediately throws a vicious roundhouse kick straight for my head. Here is where you and I need to watch closely. I jump back 3 quick steps, then dash back in. My first real fight using Shinji boxing against an expert. It feels so insanely thrilling, hitting every vital spot, totally going all out here. No matter how fast this guy strikes, I stay completely focused. Seeing he cannot win, he tries escaping. No way, I let him. I rush forward, launching a massive storm of epic punches, and plant a huge hit on his chest. He flies backward, hitting the hard dirt, coughing heavily. He struggles to stand up, but simply cannot. Impressive kid, he spits, wiping his mouth fast with one good hand. Defeated by a boy. You seriously chose the spy life. You knew this ending would happen. Before knocking him out cold, heavy boots stomp down the alleyway. Move fast. They are in this courtyard. Do not let them run. Way too late. I stand perfectly still. The gate blasts open. Soldiers with huge rifles storm in, circling me and these 2 shady spies. Freeze right there. Hands up high. I put my hands up instantly. I'm just a steel mill worker. Those 2 guys are the spies. One soldier raises his rifle to strike me, but a super sharp voice rings out. Stop. Who gave you that crazy order? A strong commander pushes through the crowd, glaring at the guard. You think everyone is an enemy agent? Why would this young kid look like one? The guard stammers nervously. The boss kicks his backside hard. Get out of my sight. He tells the squad to drop their weapons, tie up the real agents, and search the entire place. Then he turns to me with a giant grin. You must be Jack Joe, the youngest senior machinist from the loose steel mill. You actually know me? My buddy Gene talks about you non-stop. He says your epic skills are completely wasted right now. I know what you are thinking. He constantly tries transferring you to the military. He even dragged me out just to watch you work. I have truly never seen a dude obsess over another guy like that. He ignores his own wife for this. I have absolutely zero clue how to reply to him. He simply moves on. So tell me, how did you catch these spies? I explain. Walking home from night classes, overhearing words like organization and black cat, scaling a tall wall, listening to their crazy plot about sneaking explosives inside the factory, then wrecking them. His eyes suddenly flash, mentioning Black Cat. You are totally sure one is named Black Cat? Yes, sir. Fantastic. Drag these 2 away now. Everyone else, tear this entire place to pieces. Check every corner. The troops drag the hunched guy and tall dude out. The spy shoots me a super nasty glare walking by. I ignore it. The officer stares at me intensely. Ever consider joining up with the army? A young guy crushing 2 trained agents alone? We seriously need you. I shake my head. I have little siblings at home relying on me. I cannot leave them behind. If my dad had not passed away, I might have said yes. But that chance vanished years ago. It is not only about my family now. My path is firmly set. Defending the country is great, but I truly believe building up our industries matters way more today. I got reborn here with some seriously amazing talents. If I cannot add something meaningful to the nation, growing, My past life education means absolutely nothing. The army boss looks slightly let down, but is totally not surprised. Before he can speak, troops sprint out of the ruined house, cheering. They discovered a secret room holding guns, ammo, a heavy box of shiny gold bars, and 2 radios. Wow, show me. He turns. Go home, kid. Trust me, you and I will definitely want to see this upcoming reward. Let us jump right in. He rushed inside without waiting. I vanished quickly, because honestly, some things are better left unseen on these quiet streets. Back at the courtyard, Edgar was basically about to lock the gate. I shouted, just in time. He immediately demanded to know why I was so late. I told him I joined night school and rushed past. Honestly, I could practically hear the gears turning inside his scheming head. Edgar knew night school was strictly for government officials. A regular worker showing up there? Super weird. By the time I hit the back court, he was totally sitting on his bed, calculating exactly what this massive news meant and how to exploit it. Sure enough, though I had absolutely no idea, Edgar told his wife that very night, I might actually be a brand new factory official. She was totally stunned. He ordered her to start charming Daniel, Tommy, and Lily immediately. We missed out on Jack, he claimed, but those 3 are young. Treat them perfectly now, and Jack will never refuse us when we need massive favors later. Always scheming, that guy. He deeply regretted not backing my family up when we desperately needed it. I pushed my door open to find all 3 kids in the living room, nodding off in their chairs, fighting sleep so hard. Daniel's eyes snapped wide open the second he heard me. You are back. Eaten yet? Nope. Things got super crazy. I checked. Tommy and Lily, barely awake, their heads bobbing. Why are they not asleep? Daniel rolled his eyes. I tried. They refused to sleep until you arrived. I reached for his head, and he swatted my hand away. Do not wreck my hair. I did it anyway, grinning widely until he surrendered. I completely scooped up Lily and gently nudged Tommy awake. Time for bed. He rubbed his eyes and softly mumbled, finally home. I'm incredibly sleepy. I carried Lily upstairs and safely guided Tommy to his room. Stick with me here, because as I turned back down, Daniel called out, dinner is ready, but we are almost out of flour and rice. I will buy more tomorrow. Go sleep. Inside the kitchen, I found 3 mixed flour buns, stir-fried greens, and corn porridge. Super simple, but the buns were way better than Daniel's first attempt. Still a bit hard, but the taste was spot on. Harry must have coached him. The veggies were slightly overcooked, but honestly, a massive improvement overall. I sat there eating in the quiet house, thinking about Daniel's pure determination to help, Tommy's big appetite, and Lily's stubborn refusal to sleep without me. A genuine warmth filled my chest that had absolutely nothing to do with food. These 3 awesome kids were the real reason I kept pushing forward. Always were. After finishing dinner and dishes, I lay in bed reviewing the entire day. My massive study plan was truly coming together. I would grab the high school textbooks tomorrow and self-study. That Russian notebook was finished. I would ask Principal Yen for next steps. The mechanical design book was 2/3 done. Electrical engineering books would just have to wait until I perfectly digested everything else. I thought deeply about Dennis and Luke from night school. Both totally seemed to come from decent backgrounds based on their outfits and speech, but it was way too early to judge them. Then my mind drifted to that crazy spy encounter. Now pay attention here. Faking being Black Cat and knocking on that door? Only my crazy martial arts instincts actually saved me from getting completely destroyed. If something terrible had happened, my poor siblings would have been left totally alone in a courtyard full of people. I deeply distrusted. I shuddered. Always think before you act, I reminded myself, then fell asleep. With Daniel handling meals now, my mornings got way easier. His cooking was improving, not epic, but edible. Harry was coaching him in the evenings, and it totally showed. 2 whole months flew by. June 1951 arrived. Massive things happened nationally. Back in May, our legendary forces launched their 5th campaign in Korea. An intense push across the 38th parallel to pressure the Americans into peace talks. The fighting was incredibly intense. Even the legendary commander wept. That was the famous Battle of Chowan. Then on May 23rd, Tibet was peacefully liberated. When that epic news reached our city, people joyfully poured into the street celebrating. Workers left their machines to joyfully cheer and hug strangers. Louis gave everyone a day off. Back in the courtyard, the Gia family started looking for a wife for Derek. Word about my night school enrollment spread like wildfire across the neighborhood. I completely ignored all of it. I had finished the mechanical design book and moved on to electrical engineering, specifically high voltage systems. Our high voltage infrastructure was literally decades behind America. The mill ran on 110 kilovolts, a standard America used since 1908. Since steel mills depended heavily on high voltage power, I desperately needed to understand it deeply. I also breezed through the entire high school curriculum in a few days and tossed it aside. Too easy. My real education was happening through these epic technical books. One evening, came home to find Edgar's wife waiting at the gate. "Jack, you have visitors. Family. Straight from the countryside." I hurried to the back court and saw a weathered man in gray cloth squatting right by my door, calmly smoking a pipe. My heart leaped. My father's younger brother, Uncle Nathan Joe. "Trust me, our story just leveled up. You and I are diving in." I pulled him up, nagging about skipping the telegram so I could actually meet him. He rolled his eyes. "Waste cash on a telegram? Our village is not that far, and he is not so old he cannot find my place." He thought I was way too chatty. Years ago, his brutal teasing could make me cry instantly. But today, I just absolutely could not stop fussing over him. I opened up the house, sat him right down, poured water, and started interrogating. "How are the grandparents doing? I heard the village actually got land redistributed. Exactly how much did our family get? Did you guys remodel?" Uncle Nathan ignored my questions. He was too busy staring at everything. $300 million for this renovation? Isn't that insanely expensive? His face actually twitched hearing the massive total cost. Out in the country, that kind of cash easily builds entire houses. I assured him it was standard city pricing. He let it go, though he quietly muttered something about me throwing away good money. I gave him the complete grand tour. He tried hiding his pure amazement, but his wide eyes completely betrayed him. Sitting back down, I eagerly asked about the grandparents again. "They are totally fine. Your uncle watches over them very well." He sipped his water. "It has been 6 whole months since you visited. They miss absolutely everyone. School break is rapidly approaching us right now. Can you at least send the kids back? If you take a few days off yourself, that would truly be even better for everyone." Seeing their kind, wrinkled faces in my mind hit me hard. I will personally bring absolutely everyone back once the school term officially ends. I completely promise. Uncle Nathan exhaled with massive relief. "Great. Now, and finally face the elders back home." He explained since Dad passed away, I became their absolute favorite, the eldest grandchild, their truly precious one. Returning empty-handed meant pure misery for him. Suddenly, the kids burst right through the door. "Uncle Nathan." They completely mobbed him. Lily practically climbed right into his lap. He playfully squeezed her nose, grinning widely at the boys. "Daniel, keep him company. I'm grabbing an amazing dinner." Uncle Nathan immediately tried refusing, claiming he absolutely needed to head back right now. I firmly pushed him right back down. "You are definitely staying tonight. Daniel, do not let him escape." I dashed to the busy market. Mid-courtyard, I happily passed Henry and Derek whispering together. Henry greeted me super nicely today. I mentioned my visiting uncle, and rushed off. Henry watched me leave, sighing quietly. I completely felt his stare without even turning around. "Now, you and I need to watch closely." He handed Derek cash for an important date with Dong Mai, the daughter of a Workshop 3 supervisor. He firmly warned Derek not to be stingy today. His mom appeared instantly, aggressively asking about the cash. That terrifying woman had incredible money. "Radar?" Derek completely denied it, dramatically collapsing right onto his bed in pure defeat. She lectured him endlessly. Henry easily earns $60,000 monthly, so he can definitely afford sharing it. In her greedy mind, since Henry desperately needs Derek for elder care, funding the marriage is totally fair. Meanwhile, I was completely clueless about this. I was already back home holding a fresh chicken, some celery, and a rich pork slab. Extremely jealous neighbors watched me pass with incredibly hungry eyes, especially Edgar's family, but nobody dared to speak up. Inside the kitchen, I perfectly mixed my remaining flour batches together, steaming 30 massive, delicious buns. Time to cook. The epic smell of frying pork and braised chicken completely flooded the courtyard. Within minutes, Tommy sprinted over before I even called. Smells incredible. I gently flicked his forehead, ordering him to carry dishes outside. Daniel appeared next, watching me cook, with absolute longing in his eyes. When will you teach me these epic skills? When we visit Grandma for vacation, I will teach you. There? Absolutely not right here. Cooking epic meat dishes regularly here attracts way too much jealous attention, but back in the countryside, far from nosy neighbors, I could safely teach him everything without worrying who was watching. Uncle Nathan devoured food until his belly bulged and his chin literally shined with grease. Catching the kid staring in shock, he suddenly looked super embarrassed. I quickly stepped in. What are you guys staring at? Eat your food. The trio giggled and happily returned to their meals. Full? I casually asked. Beyond full. Honestly, I had absolutely zero idea you could cook like this. Even fancy restaurant chefs cannot match it. Tommy proudly interrupted. You and I both know kids can't keep secrets. Uncle Nathan, Harry says his cooking rivals Master Lou at Typhoon Restaurant. I glared at Tommy, but the massive damage was already done. Uncle Nathan's eyes went wide. Master Lou was legendary across the entire region. I quickly downplayed it, claiming Tommy was just exaggerating and I only had natural talent. Uncle Nathan carefully studied my face, noticed Tommy's wounded expression, and very wisely said absolutely nothing more. After dinner, Daniel led the younger two in cleaning up while Uncle Nathan and I talked. I asked about the land distribution. 10 acres, he replied, lighting his pipe. That much? He shot me a sharp look. Some villages got 2 acres per person. Ours has more people than land. 1 acre each is decent. Here is where you and I leave it. He blew a smoke ring. I actually wanted to transfer your registrations back for more land. Your grandparents stopped me. I hit a massive wave of relief, knowing exactly what was approaching. Stick with me here. If Uncle Nathan moved us back, we'd be completely trapped. Because city registration was about to become absolutely priceless. Our amazing grandparents had completely saved us without realizing. My heart absolutely swelled with pure gratitude. Uncle Nathan stayed over, and the next morning, I totally skipped cooking since we lacked white flour. I sneakily dashed to the local shop, grabbed 12 steaming meat buns, and cleverly smuggled them inside my backpack to completely dodge our neighbors' jealous stares. 2 for each happy sibling, and 10 for Uncle Nathan. Waving them goodbye, I happily headed straight to the factory. Over these past few months, my machining skills had seriously leveled up big time. I could genuinely feel a massive breakthrough approaching, pushing right past my current limits. Now, watch closely, was totally focused when a sudden scream shattered the workshop. Joe Ayre's hand was jammed inside the huge machine. Everyone instantly powered down and sprinted over. Pushing through the crowd, I saw the young worker in blue coveralls collapsed on the floor, gripping his severely injured arm in total agony. His face was paper white. The injury looked terrifyingly bad, and he was fading fast. I quickly leaned over to William and whispered a plan. He instantly nodded and took charge. Quit standing around. Someone grabbed the foreman. The rest of you, carry him to the hospital, right now. Another senior worker strongly backed him up. Within seconds, order returned, and one guy sprinted toward the office. A few others heroically lifted Joe Ayre onto their backs, rushing for the exit. The rest just stood in stunned silence, nervously whispering to each other. That poor guy. His entire family totally relies on him. With an injury like that, machining is completely over. What will he even do? It's kinda his fault, though. He completely skipped checking his machine beforehand. The machine totally failed, and he missed it. Even basic desk jobs require reading skills. Plus, the pay is awful. He might actually have to leave the factory entirely. Minutes later, the panicked foreman arrived, completely drenched in sweat. What happened? William bravely stepped up and delivered the full report. The exhausted foreman stood there panting, frantically wiping his face. How could Joe Ayre be so incredibly careless? He's making huge trouble. Then he got deadly serious. Was it his fault or the machine? William dramatically paused. I honestly don't know yet. I sent him to the hospital first. Everyone went silent. This answer mattered massively. If Shoaib caused it, the factory would pay a tiny settlement, maybe 3 million, and simply offer a basic desk job. But if the machine actually malfunctioned, the factory owed big, full medical bills, family living expenses, and complete support for his children until they could legally inherit his factory position. Those brand new labor insurance rules passed in March made absolutely everything legally binding now. Factories couldn't just brush off injuries anymore. The foreman's face turned completely pale, and he rushed straight to the hospital alongside William. Shortly after, official investigators arrived to examine the machine. The verdict? Operator error. Shoaib completely forgot to check his lathe beforehand. By the time I arrived home, the story had already mutated into countless wild versions. Some folks swore Shoaib did it purposely so his son could inherit the job. Others wildly claimed he was just scamming the factory. I know what you're thinking. There was even a wild sabotage conspiracy theory. This neighborhood gossip was literally rivaling a spicy palace drama. A nosy neighbor from the front courtyard suddenly grabbed me. Is it true he did it for cash? Or was he totally framed? I flatly told him it was a basic operating mistake, and to stop spreading nonsense. He just smirked and wandered off. I totally knew my exact words would become yet another crazy rumor within the hour. Back home, I sat by the window, feeling deeply shaken. Shoaib's terrifying screams, the awful injury, his perfectly pale face, it completely haunted me. The steel mill was heavily dangerous industry. Tragic accidents happened every single year. I'd heard the statistics before, but seeing it firsthand was a completely different, shocking experience. Life was so incredibly fragile. Maybe I genuinely needed to step up. I'd spent a month considering modifying the factory's dangerously aging lathes. Years of heavy wear made them super dangerous. But I'd hesitated for two huge reasons. First, the factory remained privately owned, and I refused to hand Lewis any unfair advantage during his intense negotiations with the local government. Second, I knew foreign experts were arriving within months to help modernize our industry, and I definitely didn't want my genius work credited to them. But honestly, after today's disaster, I wasn't sure I could wait. Waiting a few more months meant more terrifying chances for someone to get seriously hurt or worse. I decided to consult William tomorrow morning. This was way too huge a decision to handle entirely alone. Shaking it off, I opened my books and immediately dove straight into electrical engineering. Brilliant knowledge flooded my mind. And that's where we leave it. My hidden ability fired up, brilliantly filling my mind with complex circuits and epic techniques I now completely understood. Stick with me here. The kids got back, and Daniel quietly shushed everyone when he saw me reading. He marched straight to the kitchen and cooked. His skills had seriously leveled up lately, super efficient and organized. But disaster struck. The flour bin was totally empty. My bad. I completely forgot. Sighing, he whipped up some corn buns instead. Dinner time rolled around, and I mentally facepalmed. Just basic cornmeal buns and pickled veggies. Little Tommy literally glared at the plate in pure disgust. Daniel absolutely lost it. Why the face? Forget our old meals. You have been too spoiled recently. Starve if you hate it. Tommy instantly shrank back. I stayed silent, then gently commanded everyone to eat. I grabbed a corn bun and took a massive bite, guilt hitting me hard. My little brother feeling let down was totally on me. Getting lost in studying meant I totally failed at feeding my own family properly. After eating, I noticed the sky was still bright enough. I quickly told the siblings I was buying flour and rice, then dashed straight toward the local grain shop. Outside, I casually bumped into Harry carrying a mesh bag. He generously offered to loan me some flour, but I politely shut him down. I was already relying on him way too much, and social debts are the absolute worst to repay. But I totally missed what happened next. Watch closely now. Harry walked inside, finding Rain staring daggers right at his back. He scored 2 epic meat containers from a private catering gig. Delicious braised tofu with pork, plus shredded pork dripping in garlic sauce. Rain happily clapped. Harry instantly shushed her so the nosy neighbors wouldn't hear anything. Peter then asked if the client paid well. Harry shot him a deadly glare. Are my elite skills not worth 2 meat dishes? Peter's brutal bluntness was making him insanely frustrated. Honestly, he sometimes dreamed of trading his son for any of my siblings. Daniel, Tommy, or even little Lily. Literally everyone around town constantly praised my siblings for being respectful, super hardworking, and incredibly smart. Meanwhile, Peter just started fights, saying stupid stuff that made Harry furious. But then, Peter dropped some truly interesting news. The famous Typhoon restaurant, where he was training, got caught in a massive labor strike. Top chefs actually teamed up with union reps, pushing the boss hard for higher wages. Harry's face instantly shifted upon hearing this. He ignored those earlier rumors, but now, it sounded super serious. After a tense silence, he asked Peter something completely shocking. What if you quit Typhoon and join my steel mill instead? Peter stared right back at him like he had absolutely lost his mind. The factory cafeteria? Seriously? Can I even learn real skills there? Harry smacked him. Peter threatened to swing right back. Classic family chaos. Cut back to me arriving at the grain shop right before closing time. The clerk spotted me and literally dropped his sweeping broom. I checked the blackboard prices. Rice was 1,600 per jin. Wheat flour, 880. Cornmeal, 130. Peanut oil skyrocketed to 8,000 per jin. I quickly bought 10 jin of rice, 10 of flour, 20 of cornmeal, and 10 of oil. He packed everything fast. Total bill, 105,900 yuan. I paid, hoisted the massive bags onto my shoulder, grabbed the oil jug, and walked back through the dead, silent streets. Back home, I dumped the rice and flour into their bins, stored the oil safely, and checked the kids. Everyone was quietly crushing their homework. You and I respect that sibling hustle. I read until exhausted, checked on everyone upstairs, then finally slept. Next morning at the factory, people were still constantly gossiping about Joe Ayre's bad accident. I completely ignored the drama, hit my lathe, and dialed in. With my insanely upgraded skills, I smashed out a full day's work before lunchtime. While eating, I pitched William my genius plan to upgrade the factory's ancient machines. He listened super closely, but then slowly shook his head. Your heart is totally in the right place, but can you promise this actually works? Plus, ultimately Lewis owns these precious machines anyway. Breaking one costs him real cash. Think he wants wild experiments? Honestly, William was absolutely right. Back then, with crazy foreign equipment, blockades, every single lathe was priceless. And Lewis? Pure businessman. He would never gamble machines on unproven ideas from a 17-year-old, despite my talent. Plus, giving Lewis extra leverage before the big public-private merger sounded terrible. You are totally right, master. I was thinking way too simply. He patted my shoulder. I totally believe you can do it. But the harsh consequences of failing are something we cannot afford. I let the idea go. The timing wasn't right yet. After work, I headed straight to night school to crush my big monthly exam. Principal Yin promised I could self-study, but only if I kept passing his tests. Walking into his office, I found him happily chatting with a thin, scholarly-looking old man I didn't recognize. Hey, come over here. Meet my old buddy, Principal Albert from Beta-affiliated high school. Pleased to meet you, sir, I confidently said, with a deep bow. Principal Albert intensely studied me. So, this is the prodigy you keep bragging about. Principal Yin coughed. Bragging? He completely denied it. Trust me, you and I are about to watch a wild rivalry over brilliant students. Alright, you and I are about to watch the ultimate academic flex. Remember that first-year exam? Principal Yin's face instantly turned bright red. He glared at my smirk, quickly recovered, and tossed his hands up. So, how did he actually score? Albert's strict face softened, looking at me. Getting a perfect score on a high school paper with zero formal schooling? This kid's raw learning ability is absolutely off the charts. Gifted kids are common, but being totally self-taught to this insane level? Genuinely rare. Principal Yin beamed with massive pride. A totally new side of him. He was usually super strict. Watching him brag like a super proud dad to his buddy was honestly hilarious. Albert wasn't letting him gloat easily. Can he repeat it? My teacher's smile vanished, shooting me a look of pure challenge and absolute threat. Can you pass again? Because if you fail, do not expect a single favor from me anymore. Just like that, he dropped massive pressure right onto my shoulders. But I had my past life's knowledge, intense self-study, and my Russian was booming, thanks to his notes. Even political theory leveled up under his guidance. I am totally ready, teacher. Perfect. He faced Albert. Hand them over. Albert pulled several intense exam sheets from his black folder. Principal Yin handed them right to me. I sat at the desk, grabbed a pen, and started writing. Now, pay close attention here. I looked down and nearly choked. These weren't first-year tests. They were third-year finals. I glanced back at the old guys chuckling behind me. My teacher clearly bet his buddy I could handle anything, and now I was paying the price. The difficulty spike was insane. Third-year material was intensely brutal and dense. Without my past college life experience, I absolutely would have failed here, but I pushed through it. Chinese took 30 minutes, then math, then everything else. Total silence fell. Both men stopped joking, standing directly behind me to read over my shoulder. By the time I conquered every paper, it was pitch black outside. Barely saying goodbye, 4 eager hands snatched the papers away instantly. Principal Yin casually waved me off without even looking up. Principal Albert completely ignored my existence. His eyes were totally glued to my answers. Down the stairs, I bumped into Director Yin hauling exam papers for the regular night school crowd. He smiled, asking if I finished testing. I nodded, hurrying home. Walking those dark streets, I desperately needed a bicycle. That half-hour walk was draining my time. Plus, rationing was set to start up around 1955. After that hits, buying literally anything without a ticket becomes impossible. I should grab a watch and clock soon. At the gate, Edgar was busy locking up. I greeted him super politely. I wouldn't have months ago, but his wife had been secretly looking out for my siblings recently, and I honestly appreciated that effort. Night school again? He asked, with a friendly smile. Yes. Good night, Mr. Edgar. He didn't hold me up or ask for favors, just smile. That was super unusual. You know how scheming guys operate, right? Well, Edgar went back inside totally glowing with pure satisfaction. He told his wife, my polite greeting proved their clever strategy was actually working. Months ago, he told her to pamper Daniel, Tommy, and Lily. Building goodwill through the kids was his only play after burning bridges directly with me. Ironically, his wife genuinely grew fond of my siblings, finding them way more lovable than her own boys. Edgar was already fantasizing about me owing him a favor, maybe landing his oldest son a factory job someday. Always plotting, that guy. But his calculations made my siblings' lives much easier, so I really could not complain. At home, dinner was ready. Warm buns and stir-fried cabbage. Daniel timed it absolutely perfectly. The food was super simple, but every meal improved. I ate fast, washed my dishes, and headed straight upstairs. Daniel was reading under a dim lamp. He looked totally relieved seeing me. You're back. Are the others asleep? Yes. I playfully ruffled his hair. He swatted my hand away with dramatic, long-suffering patience. Why do you keep doing that? I just grinned at him. He closed his book, totally pretending annoyance. But I clearly saw that warm joy underneath. Growing up so fast, taking over cooking, guarding the little ones, and patiently waiting up for me every single night. He independently decided to shoulder our family's weight. Walking downstairs, a deeply familiar warmth totally filled my chest. In my past life, money destroyed families. People betrayed siblings over inheritances and severed ties over debts. But here, inside this tiny renovated house, 4 orphans held each other up with absolutely nothing but pure love and simple corn buns. You and I know this closeness is sacred. I am never taking that for granted. Back in my room, I read until my eyes burned, folded the corner, and went to sleep. Let's dive into this wild time travel life. It was Sunday, day off, waking up naturally to a quiet courtyard. Most factory workers were resting, and the kids were quickly shooed outside to play. I headed to a breakfast stall outside the gate, buying 3 portions of bean juice and 15 fried dough sticks. 3 portions, definitely not 4. I simply could not stomach that sour, fermented taste of Beijing-style bean juice. Coming from Shaanxi province in my past life, some things your palate never forgives. The kids ate happily, while I chewed my oil sticks dry. I told Daniel to keep everyone home doing their homework while I ran an errand. Lily looked up with super hopeful eyes. Can I come? Not today, but when summer break starts. I am taking you all to Grandma's house. Her little face fell, but she did not cry or cause a fuss. She just nodded and went back to eating. That quiet acceptance always hit me way harder than tears. I grabbed 4 million from my hidden stash and headed right out. Out in the front court, I bumped into Auntie Lou, our neighborhood matchmaker, in her 50s, walking alongside a really pretty girl around 17 or 18 years old. "Heading out, young Jack?" she asked, with a very warm smile. I glanced at the girl behind her. "Is she here for Derek's matchmaking?" "That is right. His mother asked me yesterday." "But wait." Her eyes suddenly sparkled with interest. "Aren't you about the right age too? How about I find a girl for you?" My face burned hot. The 1950 marriage law set the male minimum age at 20. I just turned 18. "I am way too young for that. You better hurry. Derek's mom is probably pacing a massive hole in her floor." I practically sprinted out of the courtyard. I could hear Auntie Lou calling after me, but I absolutely did not look back. Behind me, the girl asked quietly, "Who was that?" "Him? That is Jack Zhao, the absolute youngest senior machinist at the steel mill. He makes almost 800,000 monthly." Auntie Lou gave her a knowing look. "Interested?" Her cheeks flushed. "No, but I fully understood why she asked. I definitely knew I was not bad looking. Sharp eyebrows, solid features, and a cool bookish vibe from constant studying definitely added charm. Not that I ever spent much time stressing over my own appearance." "Forget him, dear," Auntie Lou said gently. "He is completely out of our league. Come on, let's go meet the Zhao family." The girl went quiet and followed. Once I was safely outside that gate, I slowed down, letting out a very long breath. Auntie Lou had seriously startled me, but I had to admit, just for a second, the idea of someone actually caring about me that way made my heart skip. Before my promotion, never really considered marriage. My old salary barely covered school fees, my grandparents' monthly allowance, and feeding 4 mouths. But now, making 800,000 monthly, the heavy pressure eased. Maybe it was time to start thinking about it. Now pay attention, because here is the crazy twist. I knew from the show that Derek would actually end up marrying a country girl named Sophia Chen Huiru. People judged her super harshly, but I saw things differently. After Derek passed away, she raised 3 children and cared for his mother alone on a level 1 worker salary. She did what she had to do to survive. In another life, with the husband who didn't pass away young, she'd make a perfectly good wife. Plus, she was beautiful, which, I will admit, mattered to me. I caught myself actually considering visiting the countryside just to find her, but I quickly shook that thought away. Too soon for that. I caught a bus to Wangfujing Street, the oldest commercial district in the city. My mission today? A bicycle. The shop was packed with more models than I had expected. A clerk approached immediately. "Looking for a bike?" "Flying Pigeon brand," I replied. "Do you have one?" "Right this way." He led me to a massive row of them. Solid construction, clean welds, built to last decades. The total price? 1.5 million yuan. Totally fair. I knew prices would not change much even in later years. I paid, had them install a headlamp, grabbed my receipt, and wheeled it outside. Next door, I spent 900,000 on a Shanghai mechanical wristwatch. Then I climbed onto the bicycle and started riding home. The stares were immediate. People stopped and watched me pass by with pure, open envy. Let that sink in for a second. A bicycle in 1951 was like driving a luxury supercar. In my past life, I felt awkward, yet intensely proud. To me, it was just basic transportation, but to absolutely everyone else, it symbolized real, undeniable wealth. I stopped at the police station to register the bike, get the frame stamped, and officially pick up my bicycle license. Then I pedaled toward our courtyard. I was almost home when a massive shout nearly made me crash. "Jack, is that really a bicycle?" Peter had just come back from wrestling practice at the bridge. He stood in the alley, gaping at my flying pigeon like it was forged from solid gold. "Keep your voice down," I muttered, but it was already too late. Within a minute, half the courtyard poured out of the front gate. People surrounded me, shining brightly. Edgar pushed to the front, staring at the bike with an expression of pure, intense longing. "And that is where we leave it." His hand twitched, afraid to touch it. "You actually bought a bicycle," he whispered, almost reverently. "Stick with me." I stepped off the new bike. "Go ahead and touch it. It's totally solid." The neighbor's eyes completely lit up. Hands reached out from everywhere, but Peter was fastest. He shoved right through the crowd, grabbed those handlebars, and started pushing the bike toward the gate. "Hey," he said, "we could touch it, not steal it." Someone yelled. "Yeah, What are you doing? Peter never even flinched. This is my brother Jack's bicycle. And just because he is nice enough to let you touch it, doesn't mean you should. Do you know how incredibly expensive this is? Could any of you pay if you scratched it? That completely shut everyone up. Hands instantly retreated. He absolutely had a point. A bicycle in this era was worth way more than what most people earned in several months. Before Peter could wheel it inside, women rushed out from the middle courtyard. Is that your bike? Your family really bought a bicycle? Harry pushed right through everyone. Seeing Peter with the bike, his face went completely dark. Whose is that? Jack's. Then why on earth are you pushing it? Give it right back before you break it. Harry shoved Peter aside, trying to hand the bike to me. I told him it was perfectly fine. Peter could definitely play with it. Harry absolutely wouldn't hear of it. He kicked Peter home, muttering angry curses, and shoved the handlebars into my hands. Shaking my head, I wheeled it to the back courtyard. At least that wild commotion cleared away absolutely everyone who wanted to touch it. I had barely locked it up when the kids came running out with rain. Tommy and Lily totally froze when they saw the bicycle. Is that really ours? Of course it is. They cheered. Daniel stood to the side, completely silent, his face stormy. I know exactly what you are thinking. Reckless with money again, right? He thought so too. I grabbed and ruffled his hair until that serious face finally couldn't hold anymore. Let me guess. Way too wasteful, right? He tried squirming free. You spent $1.5 million on something you cannot eat. I just dropped the key right into his open hand. Take your brother, sister, and Rain for a ride around the yard. Don't leave the courtyard. His mouth opened, then closed. But I really want to try it. Then stop lecturing me. He happily took the key, and within seconds, all four kids were laughing, taking turns wobbling around the yard on my brand new flying pigeon. I sat inside with my books, their pure laughter drifting through the window. Around 11:30, I realized I had completely lost track of time again. I quickly cooked 3 dishes and soup, steamed some buns, and called everyone inside. Over in the middle courtyard, Henry sat eating with his wife. She asked how I could blow so much money on a bicycle when it cannot even fill a stomach. What do you expect? The kid makes good money, Henry replied completely flatly. He was still bitter about my promotion. In his mind, I had only learned the trade for 2 years. Way too fast to be legitimate. But that factory completely belonged to Lewis, and if Lewis wanted to promote me, nobody could argue. Henry also deeply knew he could never control me the way he controlled Derek. That ship had completely sailed the day he rejected me as his apprentice. Right after lunch, I sent the kids upstairs to rest and went back to my books. Watch what happens right here. I finally finished the last engineering text, and boom. The moment I closed that cover, a massive flood of insane knowledge exploded into my mind. Complex wiring, motor assembly, installation, calibration, fault detection, repairs, control systems. Absolutely everything about electrical work, and not just current era knowledge. Some of it was from decades ahead, techniques that literally didn't exist yet. My head throbbed for a full minute before the pain finally faded. The sheer volume was staggering. I immediately looked at the wiring in my house and instantly spotted several major problems I had never noticed before. My brain instantly generated 3 completely different redesign plans. But I pushed the urge down. I literally just finished renovating. Tearing the walls open again wasn't happening, and I had been spending too freely lately. Suddenly, a loud commotion outside pulled me from my thoughts. I opened the door and spotted a group of military officers walking toward my house, trailed by half the courtyard. Edgar was leading them, directly pointing at my place. This is the Zhao residence. The lead officer thanked Edgar and politely dismissed the entire crowd. People immediately scattered, whispering that I was in deep trouble with the law. Once they were gone, the officer smiled warmly at me. We meet again. It was actually Chief Carson, the badass military commander from the night I caught those spies. I quickly invited him and his 3 companions inside, apologizing for having nothing but warm water. Drop the polite act. Carson just laughed. You probably aren't even happy to see us. His military companions ribbed him mercilessly. Warren teased that Carson talked about me so much his wife might get really jealous. Carson went pale. Apparently, his wife was famously extremely possessive. The banter flew back and forth until the most senior officer there, a man slightly older than the rest, instantly cut them all off with a single sharp look. He studied me calmly. So, you're Jack Zhao. We are here for 2 reasons. First, to see if you have 3 heads like Carson claims. You look normal. He smiled. And second, trust me, you will absolutely love this. We brought your massive reward. Let us dive right in. He slapped cash and a tiny medal on the table. Carson nodded, and I grabbed them fast. 3 million in cash, Carson grinned. Not a ton, but that medal? That is a shiny second-class merit. Someday, that medal will outvalue the cash. Guard it. I gripped the prize, feeling its heavy, epic weight. A military reward just for a regular guy who bumped into 2 spies out back. I recalled those exhausted eyes, the raspy voice, and those intensely close calls. 3 million was awesome, but Carson was totally right. That medal was the ultimate loot. Soon, it would be my absolute shield when the whole political scene flips. Thank you so much, I said, completely meaning it. My hand actually shook hearing that the medal beat the cash. I glanced nervously at the other officers. Nobody corrected him. The top boss, the guy who silenced everyone, walked right up and patted my shoulder. I am watching you, kid. Keep it up. He led the squad out, leaving just Carson. I stared, completely lost. Still clueless. Carson lit up a smoke and just shook his head at me. Now pay attention here. The boss practically spelled it out, and you missed it. Carson sighed, totally doubting my smarts. The state was splitting heavy industry into 2 brand new groups. The first machinery ministry and the second machinery ministry. That big boss leaving my house? He is taking over the first ministry, running all civilian tech and huge ships everywhere. I actually knew about this massive shift from my past life. Soon, the leaders would build 8 different machinery ministries to control every single awesome branch of the industry. But knowing it as boring history was one thing. Having the future absolute boss walk into my living room, claiming he was watching my epic rise, was something else entirely. Thanks to Carson, I scored a direct link to one of the absolute strongest industrial titans in the nation. I kept that wild thought totally secret. What about you? I asked, seeing Carson looking a little bit wistful. He smiled. Actually, thanks to you. The military setup ends this year, and I was supposed to head right back. But after that epic spy case, my transfer changed. I am hitting the railways. He laughed at his insane luck. We chatted a bit, then he left. I walked him outside and watched his sweet ride vanish. You know how neighbors are, right? They stared with serious suspicion. Edgar blocked my path fast. What did those commanders want? Nothing, I smirked, casually walking right past him without pausing. He wanted to yell, but stopped himself. I could literally see the gears spinning in his sneaky head. Jack Zhao knows top commanders. Now, gotta get close. Harry stood nearby and simply nodded right at me. I nodded back and kept strolling. At home, the loud visitors had completely woken the kids from their naps. Little Daniel asked who had visited. I said it was nothing, sent them to wash up, and they went right to study. Once quiet, I just sat alone with my thoughts. Carson's words bounced in my head. The new ministries, the restructuring, the upcoming mergers. Pieces were falling into place insanely fast. Next year, the factory is going to be incredibly exciting, I whispered. I sighed, then smiled real wide. A massive spark of pure excitement rushed right through me. The epic era from the history books, the massive industrial push, the whole nation transforming, was finally about to start. And somehow, through sheer luck, skills, and that dark alley encounter, I connected with the absolute legends shaping this world. Trust me, this fiery era is starting, and we are absolutely ready for it.